So 2009-10 was a hugely memorable season for Swindon Town Football Club, despite respected pundits unanimously predicting relegation for Swindon at the start of the season and the sale of post-war goal-scoring record breaker Simon Cox, plus an opening day 5-0 mauling at the hands of Kentish bogeymen Gillingham. The season would have proved to be a truly outstanding campaign of League One football at the county ground. As 2009 drew to a close, Danny Wilson unleashed our special guest. An unknown quantity, plucked from the Wessex League. He'd go on to score a corker on his full league debut, followed by a further 12 goals in his next 14 starts, forming a deadly strike partnership with fellow town legend Billy Painter. Together, the two marksmen smashed nearly 30 goals during Town's surge into the automatic promotion places. Late season jitters, however, saw automatic promotion denied by the same Leeds team that Swindon Town had battered home and away that season. And as the playoffs beckoned, and it was quite a ride, things didn't quite end up going to plan. But before we come to that adventure, esteemed listeners, I give you, with enormous pleasure, Charlie Austin. Charlie, how are you, mate?
I'm all right, Mark. Thank you very much. How are you?
How's that for an intro from a bloke that used to flog ads?
I know that is bang on, mate. You would have never guessed you had so much experience, mate.
Jermaine Genius has got nothing on me, fella. Let me tell you. Let me tell you. Charlie, I'll introduce you to my co-host, who's going to be over the moon to talk to you as well tonight. Tyler,
No
meet Charlie. Charlie, meet Tyler.
Hi, Tyler.
All right, mate. Lovely to meet you.
And you?
So, Charlie, format of the show, as per the intro, and as
Yeah.
per all of our facts, mate. Look, I'll stay. In fact, forget the format. I'll be quite frank, mate. I think you and I said when we first started talking earlier in the week, you've come a long way since Paul Town, haven't you? And for me, it's quite an emotional sort of evening tonight because it brings back so many happy memories, both personally and professionally. I mean, you and I first came into contact. Literally, you'd only been at the club, I think, a matter of days, and you'll probably remember that night at JJB in Greenbridge, Swindon.
Yeah, because I felt wishes. You still got that shirt?
One of your very first professional autographs, and I gave you the chitters by asking for it.
Honestly, that is John Gaunt school for you, Mark.
Well, look, Charlie, suffice to say, mate. I mean, look, tonight we're going to focus on a particular season because you've done various bits across the various outlets that Swindon Town bring to the table. You did a brilliant piece with Rich Pullen on the Low Strangers. You've done various bits and pieces with the Official Supporters Club, and I said to you, we try and do something a little bit different, and we drill into something sort of at a specific moment in time. But it would be remiss of me to not kind of look back at that night in Greenbridge where you were still like a starry-eyed young kid.
I was. That's all. I think you'd be. I think people don't really understand, Mark, and I probably won't until I do now when I look back there, but I won't probably until I finish my career. But I don't think people realise. I guess they would in Swindon because we have good local football around. You know what I mean? Non-league football, but where I've travelled places to other clubs and stuff, and I said I used to play like on them park pitches. They're like, Chaz, don't be so stupid. Of course you haven't. I was like, I was promised you. So it was like I was like a rabbit in the headlights, mate. When I them first 2-3 weeks, it was so surreal. As much as I on the pitch kind of on the training ground and such took it a little bit into my stride, the off the pitch stuff was a little bit surreal.
I've still got. I really hold those memories dear, mate. I've got very clear memories of the conversation you and I had about when you first walked into the changing room at Swindon Town after signing your deal. And I remember, to quote you verbatim, and again, tell the listeners if I'm getting this all wrong, but I guarantee you it's almost word for word. Your words were something along the lines of, I walked in and Mark, fuck me, there's Billy Painter, John Paul McGovern, Gordon Greer, John Douglas. Hang on a minute, a week ago I was getting changed behind a tree.
Yeah, that is exactly what it was, Mark. I won't lie, like I trained all right in the trial, do you know what I mean? I scored against Swansea. I mean, I didn't light it up, but I must have showed Danny Wilson enough to have a gamble on me as such. And then when I went back, I was in my head, I was thinking, well, all these people in here have got vast experience in the Football League. I just thought, listen, what have fuck it, I ain't got nothing to lose, have I? Do you know what I mean? I didn't. I had everything to gain and nothing to lose, mate. And I had 9 months to to basically grab the bull by the horns and go from there.
And mate, and you did that, and I really do mean it. It's been, I'll never forget sitting in my office back at 442 Towers, the first time you featured on the front cover of 442. And I remember you and I had a little bet that night in Greenbridge. I said, if all things go to plan, mate, you're going to be on the front cover of this one day. And you started laughing. And then I think it must have been about a year later, there you were. And I remember writing a handwritten note at my desk going, "You've made it now, pal," and mailing you a copy of that.
Yeah.
And then from there, obviously, whilst you were at the club, you and I had plenty of contact whilst I was still a sponsor of the club. And we did, obviously, pro contract. And tying into what you did, win a pro contract, it captured perfectly what you just talked about in terms of, I never for a minute felt when we were doing that project and you grabbed the ball by the horns and worked with both Martin Howard and I on that. I never felt for a minute your involvement was anything less than sincere, because you genuinely understood what we were trying to do.
I did, but I don't, even to this day, and listen, we've spoken for many years, I still to this day don't think it, like there's so many players out there, there really are, but I don't think you realise how hard and how fortunate and how lucky you are. Think how many people that entered the winner pro contract,
Yep.
didn't make it to the final, like into the next stage, and then the final 22, and do you know what I mean? Then the final 3 or 4. I think it was a great concept, and it was one that gave people the belief. Do you know what? I'm going to have a roll of the dice, and the best thing that can happen, I could win a pro contract. Do you know what I mean? And it was one of them. And when I was looking in, watching, I was like, I really hope this takes off. I really did, because there's so many players out there that, it's so cliche as such, but slip through the net. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
There's so many people.
Charlie, obviously, you've gone on and had a stellar career. You've made England squads. You've top scoring charts. You've played in the Premier League. You've played for huge managers, big clubs. But equally, you talk about that as a concept. He was a little bit of a later starter, but Caden Jackson's done all right for himself. And there were a couple of other boys that, didn't quite.
Oh, there's loads. There's loads, but all they needed, you know what? It probably give them the opportunity that they didn't think that would happen, and that's all it takes sometimes, is just to have someone to believe in them, or not even just believe in them, yes, but say, listen, this opportunity's there. It's in your hands whether you want to take it or leave it.
But look, mate, I guess the bigger point for me on that winner pro contract was, a real testament to you, mate, because there were. I've been involved in a lot of projects like that where they've come from the commercial side of what 442 was doing, and you never necessarily saw a twinkle in the eyes of, like, whether it be pros or certain brands that and advertisers you were working with, and they had sort of whether those be celebrity endorsees or sportsmen on their side. You never saw that twinkle, but you. With the benefit of your background and how you entered the game, I totally got that you were like living every second of it. And I'm going to flip it another way for you, Charlie. So whilst imagine what an emotional journey that's been for you.
Yeah.
I'd be interested to know whether you've ever actually took a step back and thought, actually, what that must be quite weird. Take, for example, me as a fan, forget the 442 part of it. As somebody that met you at a very, very start of your career, just after you scored against Carlisle, to then fast forward to where I am sat now, having this conversation, reflecting on QPR, Southampton, West Bromwich Albion, and Swindon and Wembley, and everything you've achieved thus far in your career. Having had that starry-eyed meeting with you in JJB, I knew that we'll have a really special conversation this evening that hopefully both you and I and the listeners will get something out of.
Yeah, I think, Mark, I don't, on that for you, and then for me, I don't think I'll appreciate until I'm finished, I don't. I know that might sound a bit like, I look back and I think, that's 13 years ago. Do you know what I mean? Where's that time gone from when I was literally just starting out? I think it was like 13 years in November. It might have been November just gone. But I don't think I'll appreciate what I've managed to achieve, with respect to going and have a good career. Do you know what I mean? And earn a good living. Be very fortunate to be able to kick a ball around for a living. But I do look back at that time and I loved every minute of it. I had to love every minute of it, because if I didn't at the time at Swindon, I might have never got that opportunity ever again.
Yeah, I understand. Well, look. So my co-host, I'll bring Tyler in at this point, Charlie. So my co-host, he's just sort of tickling 18. And so he will have probably very different memories of Charlie Austin, the Swindon Town player, that I do. Charlie, Tyler, what does it mean to you getting the opportunity to have this conversation with Charlie, given what I've said about his career, but obviously the impact he had at Swindon as well, from your perspective as a fan?
For me, it's a bit surreal, because when we signed Charlie, that was like when I started going regularly, and so he was scoring every week, so he was sort of like the first one that I ever sort of looked up to. So for me, it's a bit like, I wouldn't say starstruck, because I'm not that childish, but
we're too cool for school, Tyler, to say that. Well, listen, Charlie,
a bit surreal for me.
Well, look, Charlie, I'm going to just pitch this to you, okay? Because I asked the chap who he's very dear at the hearts of Swindon Town fans, and he's someone that you'll know. So just to pen me his thoughts, when I told him you were coming on, fair to say that he was really chuffed, and he's listening right now. So you may well be aware of who Vic Morgan is.
But that's what I was literally about to say to you. Is it Vic Morgan by any chance?
It's Vic Morgan, let me tell you. Now, listen here, Charlie. This is what you mean to a supporter. I mean, I've been a Town fan for 30 years. Yeah. Vic's been a Town fan for a hell of a lot longer than that. And this is what Vic had to say about you, okay? And this is a perfect way for us to start this evening. Okay. So Vic says, I'd argue to anyone who'll listen that Charlie Austin is the best natural finisher I've seen play for Swindon Town Football Club. I remember one goal Charlie scored in front of the Stratton Bank against Leyton Orient, I think.
Yeah.
I'm convinced that his foot changed shape as he slotted the ball into the back of the net that day. Charlie's positioning in front of goal was uncanny. The goal at Southampton on that Tuesday night is legendary. And Charlie's a shining example to anyone in non-league football to never give up. He's enjoyed a wonderful career, and we were lucky to have him in his formative professional years. There really is only one Charlie Austin. Now that is high praise.
Not sure. I don't know what I can add to that, other than say thank you very much, Vic. I really appreciate it. I was Mark in the lockdown in the first one when everybody was at home. Vic got in touch with me. I commented on something with Vic on what Vic was doing at home. It was on Monday nights, and I'd done one with him for an hour. And we went through all the stuff, and honestly, I don't think if I mentioned something about Swindon, Vic knew 10 times, 100 times more about that subject. Do you know what I mean? Every little bit we spoke to, and he's a great man. And like I say, I haven't seen Vic for years since I played that, and I've been back to the town now. But it's nice to see him constantly involved, supporting the club and commentating and doing all the stuff.
Well, Vic's someone that I often lavish praise on from my perspective, because he was a voice of Swindon Town when I started supporting the club across all the radio channels that I would be lucky enough to get to listen to back in the pre-internet world. But he's, the fact is, you consider some of the names that Vic has seen in a Swindon Town shirt, up top, you're talking literally a who's who of, everyone from your Andy Rowlands, through to, the Charlie Austins, the Sam Parkins, the Duncan Shearers, the Steve Whites, the Jan Ogafjortos. So for him to be able to say that, and you'll know he's also a very sincere man. He's not the kind of bloke that would lavish that onto you lightly, mate. So, well, look, there's going to be a few moments like that during the night, mate, when I bring out the red book and do my Eamon Andrews bit, because there's been quite a lot of people, and there's people that want to come on and ask you some questions, Charlie, as well. So what we'll do, if you feel that we start getting a bit short on your time, mate, you just send me a little text and let me know, and we'll shuffle things along, all right? But look, we said that we were going to talk about 2009, 2010. Obviously, one of in living memories for Swindon Town, one of the most memorable seasons, whilst it didn't quite achieve its objective at the end. And obviously a seminal moment for you in your professional career, Charlie. So if you can, I'm going to sort of give you a few pointers, but try and appreciate you sort of came through as the season was well into progress. But sort of sum up the season for you at Swindon Town sort of prior to the playoffs. So if you sort of take it from the moment you arrived at the club sort of onwards, and I mean I'll get you started. I mean what were your kind of I mean don't feel you have to limit
Mark,
it.
I wanted to play. Mark, I wanted to play straight away. Like I'd just come from non-league and played like every Saturday, every Tuesday. Do you know what I mean, for Poole Town? Then I'd trained for a little bit, and I was obviously left out of the squad. There was people that was left out. Me, Nathan Thompson, Callum Kennedy, and Sean Morrison was involved in the squad, or he'd be out. Do you know what I mean? So the younger lads as such. Then get my nerves after about 2 weeks. And I was like, I want to play. I played a couple of reserve games, and we played Plymouth at home, and I scored 3, I think, or 2 or 3 in a game at the county ground, and then it kicked off the following week. Me and Billy played against Reading. We beat them 4-2, and we both played together and scored 2 each. On the following Saturday is when we beat Tranmere away 4-1, and Billy scored. And I was like, right, now, listen, I need to get in now. The problem I had was the following week we had Wrexham in the FA Cup, but I played in like the qualifying round for Poole Town, so I was cup side. Right? So I was cup side, and then the following week we played Carlisle, and I didn't even know I was playing till the Friday. Danny Wilson gave me no inkling. We trained at Bolton that day, and look, I was on everyone knows what the weather was like before the game was going to get called off, and the game started. I don't think I touched the ball once or twice. The next minute I'd scored, and listen, as dream debuts go, mate, I don't think they get much better than that. They do, because they do in certain ways. Because I mean, I scored on my debut for Southampton at Old Trafford, so I don't. Do you know what I mean? But at the perfect time, away, like for me, that was so important, and I never looked back. And like it was from then, it's like I said, I scored 12 in my first 14 games, and I've been truthful. I know it now. I scored Carlisle, Huddersfield, 2 against Leyton Orient, and then we've got the dreaded result when we played Bristol Rovers twice that year, and we was rubbish. After that Bristol Rovers game, I thought I was going to get dropped because I felt like I just needed to score. Do you know what I mean? All the time. But Danny Wilson he left me in, and like I felt like I repaid him. But the only way I can, for me, that season was like an absolute roller coaster, mate, the whole way, and it was always up because I was playing. I was only every game I was learning, every day I was kind of getting better, learning as well off the field. Do you know what I mean? Picking up on not as much media stuff, but how to like speak to people, etc., etc. And you got to understand, mate, I'd come from non-league, and then by the time we lead, I think it was like end of January, February, they was trying to shout for me I was getting people to come and watch. Like England under 21s were coming to watch. I'm doing paper articles for the Daily Mail. I'm like, Charlie Austin, 6 months ago, I was carrying the odds. You know what I mean? So it was mad. So
you got strange blokes from National Football Magazine standing next to you at JJB getting you
trying
to
to talk
t-shirts.
like properly, and then it was like I think it might have been. Do you know what? And you probably know this, and same with people listening. It was about this time last year. Was it this? When did we go to Leeds and beat them? Then we beat Tranmere on a Monday, didn't we? Was that coming up?
That's right.
And then
we.
It's coming up at Easter. That was Easter weekend, wasn't it? Because then we got fucking. I missed a chance at Colchester that I should have scored, and we got beat there 3-0. And then we drew. I was going to say Everton then. We drew with Exeter that Monday night.
That's right.
Fucking, we had no momentum really going into the playoffs. All right, we beat Brentford at home 3-2. We went to Millwall and they absolutely bullied us. And even though it was 3-2 there, they bullied us. And then we went into the playoffs, although we finished 4th, like you said earlier. Nobody gave us a chance, but we rolled our sleeves up and had a right good go. And I felt like that was us. And I think a lot of people have to appreciate how close we was. Games turn on a decision, or do you know what I mean? And we did have the opportunity to drop it, get into second, but we just couldn't actually get there. I do believe if we got to second, I really think we would have just kicked on and found another level. But that's football, do you know what I mean? It's fine margins.
Yeah. Well, look, what we'll do, we'll split. So we'll get into talking about the playoffs, and I'll take them by sort of 3 chunks a little further down the line. We'll take the first leg, the second leg, and the final. Going back over some of your summaries. So we talk about your goal at Carlisle. I mean, I remember you telling me that night when we were chatting in the sports store that it just seemed like a bit of a blur. Like you said, you got it. It's instinct, and bang, it was in the back of the net. And it was like,
I didn't see it hit the back of the net, Mark. I just had a touch and shot. I looked and I'd see it like it was going on target. And I just knew it was in. Just had that feeling.
Yeah.
The relief kind of thing. I was like, this is made. But Cy ferrying that before the game, yeah. This is how much of an idiot he is. He like wind up match with him, Scott Cuthbert, and that was like getting after me in the chat. Listen, Chaz, if you want to have a chat and all that about if you're getting nervous and all this kind of stuff, like you can always. I look back and think we play in front of 3,000 people at Boundary Park, man. Play for 80,000 at Old Trafford. Play at the end of the season. You imagine? I make my debut for Swindon like 3,000 away at Carlisle, and the last game of the season was like 75, 80,000, wasn't it, at Wembley, man? But
it was, yeah.
They was getting after me, but I remember this, Mark. We scored, and I scored. I think I had a couple of touches after, won a couple of headers or whatever, linked up with Billy. And I looked up at the clock, mate, and there was like 17 minutes gone. I felt like the adrenaline had just drained out of me, mate. I was thinking, oh my God, But I think the gaffer took me off after, I think it was about 52, 53 minutes. I think for like the first 10 games, I didn't see past 60 minutes. It just kept coming off at 60-minute mark.
Well, look, how about this for high praise? So Sam Parkin said this about you. The Super Sammy Parkin said, the thing about Charlie Austin was that you had like an unorthodox instinct versus the established coaching sort of manual of scoring goals. And he said that he honestly thought that that's like almost like a God-given talent, that one of the things that actually helped you because of your route through the game, he suspects, was the fact that because you didn't go through the kind of classic professional football clubs finishing school, this is how you take a chance, etc. This is where you move to, or this is how you take a touch before you strike. He said that you just had this uncanny natural ability, and it was that probably helped you from his perspective, because he said you got into positions, and as goalkeepers were setting themselves, expecting you to do what they had been coached in training to keep out. You would do something almost instant, like just that split second different. That is something you just can't train.
I just loved seeing the ball at the back, and that I still do now. I remember it must have been like 2 weeks into signing, I'd not played a game yet, doing a shooting drill after. I shot, Phil Smith saved it, right? Come back about 6 yards. I'm not joking you, man. I hit this ball so fucking hard. Mark, it would have took mate. Blew past his face, went in the goal, and he just gave me like the goalie stare. Now as more I'm in the professional, like longer in, I know when he saves it, like that's it. But I didn't care. I just wanted to see that ball at the back and it come back and rock it back. But I've always scored. I've always been fortunate, like to be able to score goals and put myself into the right positions. And I don't know. It's just like you say, it must just be a natural instinct that I've just been very fortunate to have.
Well, mate, that's high praise, obviously, given Sam's goal-scoring record and standard with the Swindon Town supporters, that he genuinely has a view on how you were so successful, and he's nothing but praise for you. And two things that I'll add to you on a personal level, mate. The first one was, I don't know whether you remember, I think it was the following season, which obviously didn't go at all to plan. But I brought my kids up. I think it was during the Easter break to come and see you guys training at the Livingston. Yeah. And I remember watching from a distance the shooting practice at the end of training. And to your point, the thing that struck me was I was watching all your teammates shooting, and you were the only one that was celebrating like you were actually out on the county ground pitch. So you were levering shots, and you were absolutely levering them.
I'll give it to the goalies.
Yeah, celebrating every goal, mate, like you were playing.
Yeah, I'll give it to the goalies. I like it. They give it as much as to your back if you're having one. So even back then, I used to rocket them straight in and give it to them. I say, is that all you've got? Can't you? Get another. I used to say to him, get another one in there. Stick two of you in there. That'll be right.
And a more personal story. I was very lucky to be. I don't know if you remember when I took part in a play on the pitch event, and you were in your socks, and I think it was just prior to the playoffs, and I was like, "Come on, mate, what do you reckon? Couple of shots." Everyone was disappearing off for the pre-match, sort of like pull the socks up, get the kit ready. I was like, "Come on, Charlie, what do you reckon?" And there you were. I think you were either barefooted or in your socks, and you were levering balls at me from about 20, 25 yards, and you were breaking my bloody wrist. I never admitted it at the time, but you were absolutely battering me. And you were celebrating past me like you just scored at Wembley.
Mark, don't worry about that. I got a goal in my garden. I stick Bianca in there in the summer, man. I rifle and pass her and all, mate. Don't worry about that. Don't worry about that. But Mark, however, when the goal got delivered, right, it was in the garden. We was out there. I was speaking to the fella. She came out. She went, "Charles, is that the size of the goal? Like a real size goal?" I'm like, "Yeah, babe, of course it is." She's like, "Please tell me how the fuck you keep missing there." Like, she was like, "How did you miss? Like, how do you miss penalties? Like, look at the size of the goal. How would you miss? Like, how would you miss?" Like, I'm like, "Babe, there's like a 6-foot keeper in there, mate, that can dive about." But no, listen, it was one of them. It's one of them. But so it was fun memories. Do you know what I mean? You look back and just I have to appreciate what I achieved.
Yeah, well, listen, you talked about a name that you mentioned that obviously you said that you sort of intimated that you clicked almost from the off was obviously the great Billy Painter. Tell me a little bit about your relationship with Bill as you joined the club and you were sort of settling in and obviously that partnership on the pitch was absolutely deadly, certainly arguably the deadliest in the league that year. What was it that, I mean, tell me a little bit about the early days, and then what was it about that relationship with Bill that made the partnership so special?
Sure, obviously Bill, he had loan signs in with Topi Odabaye, what's his name?
Yep.
What was Topi? He was there. Alex Revel, Peeps was there, but Peeps was near the back end of his time. Ben Hutchinson, Billy was obviously there also. I was like number 6 striker, or whatever, and he couldn't find someone to play with. I don't know, Mark. As long as it gets on, the best partnerships work when they don't work on nothing in training. It just seemed to click with me and Billy, like from that game, and then when we played together again, and throughout that season, it honestly just took off. Like, I never see Billy outside of football. Even Bill was a husband, had kids as well, like young kids at the time, which I appreciate now, obviously having mine. So we didn't see each other, and I didn't live in Swindon at the time. I live still where I am now. I don't know, just when we got into football, when we was on the pitch together, it was just a partnership, whether it was a 6-a-side, a 7-a-side, 10v10, and then match day, like we just clicked. I knew where he would run, he knew where I'd run, and if the centre-half used to try and boot me, he'd come across and boot them for me. Like, he was like a big brother for me for the first couple of months.
Did he give you any sort of words of advice that either you adopted at the time and or you've carried on in your career?
Oh, not words of advice. I think it was more like, because I was natural, as a natural centre forward, it was hard to like say give advice. What I took from Bill was that what he was very clever at, and I still do it to this day, when you're backing into when you're centre forward and defenders up your arse, like if he gives you a nudge, you're going on a foot. I used to watch Bill, and I still don't know. When he goes over, he used to grab the ball. I said, "Bill, why'd you grab the ball?" He said, "Well, the referee's got a decision to make then. It's either he's going to give a free kick because you've handballed it, or 9 times out of 10 he's going to give it to you for a foul, whether it's soft or not." I thought, that's quite clever, that. So I took that on. I still do that now.
Oh, outstanding. So there were some little nuggets, but yeah, like you say, it wasn't just one of these things that clicked. Another lad that you developed a really nice chemistry with as well, and I was absolutely devastated the club weren't in a position to push the boat out and bring him in, was Danny Ward. What can you tell me about Danny Ward?
Wardy was top draw, man. Wardy was top, honestly, Mark. Wardy, because you got to understand, like, there's me, 19, young boys that were already there. There's me, Wardy coming on loan, and then obviously big Darbs coming on from Liverpool as well. Do you know what I mean? But Wardy was the centre forward from Bolton, and then just took up the left wing. Like, he played left wing he was top lad. I still speak to Wardy now. I'll see him in a couple of weeks. He's playing for Huddersfield. No, he was special. You could see the difference between me and him, because he'd come through an academy and all that kind of stuff. Do you know what I mean? And I obviously hadn't, but we just clicked. When you're in a winning team, Mark, Wardy can do it.
Yeah, I mean, Wardy was an interesting one to be, because at that time I was obviously lucky enough that I was sat amongst the sort of and the directors' boxes, and I used to regularly overhear comments from the likes of Jeremy Ray, turning to other people around him that, almost like, imploring them that, this kid, I mean, we've got to do what we need to do to get hold of him. We've got to do what we need to do to keep him. I mean, you could just see there was a there was an appreciation, but also an anxiousness around, like, my God, like with every game, this kid is growing and growing and growing, and we've got to make a decision here. Like, we could have a big asset on it. You could almost read what was happening in front of you, but at the same time, I think by the time the season finished, he had achieved so much in such a short space of time that, I mean, I think the prospect of signing him permanently was just an impossibility for where the club was and what potentially his future was going to mean. I mean, he was, top draw. Have you got? I mean, was it really obvious to you from when Danny arrived? Because as you say, he came in as like centre forward.
Yeah, because he's a big boy.
Yeah,
Woody was a big boy. Do you know what I mean? Woody was a big, strong boy, even at 18.
Yeah.
So kind of obvious that he'd been through the academy, he'd done all the stuff, and you could see, listen, he was too good for League One. With all due respect, you know what I mean? He needed that challenge to go in the Championship, and that's why he's played so many games in the Championship and had a brief spell in the Premier League.
Yeah. Is Charlie, like, if we had gone up, then that would have been a different kettle of fish altogether. And I think so.
I think so. But then when you look at that, I think we would have signed them. We would have made the shite signings that we did make in that summer that comes. You know what I mean? If we didn't get promoted, so if we did, like, if we got promoted, we wouldn't have signed the rubbish that we did.
Yeah. Well, look, another standout. It would be totally remiss of me to overlook the importance of Gordy Greer that season. What was? Tell me a little bit about Gordy in and around the dressing room as the leader of that group, because I got to see it firsthand behind the scenes and just how important he was, for sort of almost snapping you all to attention. But what was he like from as a youngster going into that scene? You know, what sort of
for me? Like, he was quite good. He spoke to me, but he obviously had a lot of control of the dressing room, like most captains do, you know. And he spoke very well, in a good relationship with the manager. He was he was just a typical Scotsman, hated losing, and when he was losing, you try to kick the shite out of you in training, mate. Even though you're on the same team, he didn't care. He just hated losing. He was very good. He was like a leader. He spoke volumes of the team. He was captain, but you could see, although we had a settled starting 11, like, the whole squad was good, and it was just a good group, good nucleus of the group, and you have to say that was down to Gordy, because he was the captain, he was the leader of us.
Yeah, and then you had his able deputy, and obviously people had a view on what happened the following season, but we're not here to talk about that. But you had Dougie just in front of him in the midfield, purring around. I mean, that season Dougie was different class. What was sort of Dougie's presence in and around the dressing room? Again, from the point you've arrived through to the playoffs, like what was your view on Dougie?
I was scared of Dougie. Because obviously he played like Premier League, international. I was scared of Dougie. I was like always trying to like earn his respect, or trying to make sure he played all right, like for Dougie, so he wouldn't have you. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But he was good. He did so well with Simon in the middle, and it just gelled together. He was like quite a version of Gordon, really, unless you stepped out of line, and he'd give it you.
Yeah, and you talked a little bit about, obviously, his midfield partner earlier, Cy Ferry. I mean, we could literally dedicate a show to talking about Cy. And I guess if you look at what he's doing with his career, not only is he still playing, but the media piece that he's doing away from the game as well. I mean, he's really carved a niche for himself, hasn't he? He's almost, Simon Ferry's brand of unique banter has got its own legs, and they're running.
Yeah, but it's true that he's almost like he's made for it. It's like he's made for it, everything that he does. But he was good. He'd come down from Scotland to play games of football, and he learned a lot from Dougie, and he'd tell you that he loved his time down. Hence why he come back and stayed for many seasons after. And it was just one of them with Cy. There was loads of partnerships. Everyone talks about there was like me and Billy, but then you remember Cy and Dougie, Gordon and Scott. You had Kevin Manker on the right back. Him and JP had good connection. Danny Ward played the left. Alan Sheehan also played left. Do you know what I mean? So there was loads of little bits everywhere.
Yeah, it was just absolutely. If it was a game of FIFA, mate, your team map had loads of green all over it, wouldn't it?
I'd like to say so.
Well, another very, very classy sort of act, similar kind of footballing background to Cy Ferry was, of course, John Paul McGovern. Now, JP's one of those players that He's often underestimated and underspoken in relation to Swindon Town fans. But I know in the dressing room, you guys really, really rated him. What was your thoughts on John Paul McGovern?
Mark, JP was top draw, mate. He was technically very good. I don't understand some of the. I mention it every now and then. Everyone's like, "No, we didn't have him. Didn't like him when he was here." Let me tell you, mate. He was different gravy, mate. He was top draw. He was a striker's dream, mate. He used to get the ball touch whip. That's why me and Billy used to score the goals, because he used to just think, right, touch cross. We worked on like just him, Susie would cross, one of us to front, one at the back, and that was it. Goal. And he was good. He was good for me, like, because he would speak to me, ask out like our words every day if I needed anything. He was always there to give me advice, and it was someone that I loved playing with, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, I think that if there was one criticism of JP's game, was that he had a sort of style that made you. I mean, he wasn't the quickest, but he certainly wasn't a slouch. But he almost had a game that was akin to. It's a lazy comparison, so forgive me, Charlie. But he had a game a game that was akin to David Beckham, as you say, ball into feet, touch, whip it into the box, and what a cross as well. More often than not, you look at John Paul McGovern's career stats. The number of assists at the clubs that he's played at are frightening. But at the same time, I think there is this cliche with wingers that you expect them to get out wide, skin the fullback for pace, and then get to the touchline and bend it in. But that wasn't his game.
The problem is that you find me a winger that paces them, then puts a decent delivery in, because there ain't one.
Yeah, true enough.
All they got is, honestly, mate, speedboat, no motor. Fly past the centre half, and then their final delivery is rubbish. Like,
yeah.
Do you know what I mean? To have the perfect balance, 9 times out of 10 they play in the Premier League.
Yeah.
Or they're going to go on to. Do you know what I mean? So you have the best of both worlds. We was fortunate. We had pace down one side. Wardy was pacey down that side. Do you know what I mean? He really was. He was direct. JP, touch, cross. Or, let's not forget, he used to play a nice pass down the line for Kevin and Manquith to put the ball in.
Yeah,
like,
100%. Well, again, I mean, another underrated player. We'll talk about Manx when we come on to the Wembley game, and we'll give that some context. But the interesting thing that when I think back to that season and that particular squad, another player that, again, you've mentioned him earlier, didn't play that many games because of the time of which he've arrived. But yeah, Big Darbs. Obviously, Darbs is facing, battles away from the pitch, and, we always send our best wishes to Darbs. Hugely, hugely popular at Swindon Town, and we'll come on to the second leg of the playoffs in a bit.
Yeah.
But, Stephen Darby, what did he bring to the piece? Because obviously, Liverpool background, he's arrived.
Scouse charm, mate. He had good banter, Darbs, and my agent, still now, his brother Robbie, they grew up together. They're still. Robbie was best man at his wedding. They grew up at Liverpool through the academy, etc. So I still get updates on Darbs. He's got obviously like MND. He's got battles that's going on. That's horrendous, but it could happen to anybody. Do you know what I mean? But he can't. I still remember this. He sung Robbie Williams' Rock DJ away to Brighton. That was his first away game. He just got up there. No messing about. Stood up there, belt out. Lads were buzzing. He was top draw, Darbs. You could tell he'd come through Liverpool and trained and been with better players and everything. Do you know what I mean? It was just. I think it's hard to. It's not possible to find a bad word as such about any of that team and that dressing room, Mark. I'll be honest with you. It really is. It was such a great group. Every individual brought their own different piece of the puzzle, and that's why the season worked out as well as it did to a 95% of it.
And that, in many ways, is what made the next season such a heartbreaker, because I think there was something so special with that group. And I think that it must have been quite difficult when you've got players that come from outside into that group and they're not necessarily buying into what it is that you guys have generated that was so special. And obviously, the likes, Darbs had moved on, Wardy had moved on. You'd lost quality from that team. But I remember coming to the training ground, and I could quite clearly see little cliques on the training ground, little groups of 2 and 3. You'll know who I'm talking about, but little groups of 2 or 3 doing their own little warm downs and speaking in their own language rather than necessarily people going to them and making an effort.
Let's not mess it. I won't lie to you. It weren't just them.
There was plenty of others, which was it was just no good, mate. It was no good. But then you need to remember, we brought a load of rubbish in, but we did lose 26 goals in Billy, and we lost our captain. Let me tell you, to replace a 26-goal striker, that's tough going.
Yeah, absolutely right,
In
mate.
any
As I say, you lose quality from the squad. You have cliques forming. I mean that, But again, we'll try. That story's for another day, Charlie. That story's for another day. So look, rounding up the sort of the sort of prior to the playoffs. I mean, it would be remiss of me to not talk about fixtures against two particular clubs, and you'll know who I'm going to be talking about. So let's go with Southampton first. So I mean, obviously, decent Southampton side. And we go and do the double over them. And you obviously took, two clean sheets, and you managed to notch as well, and not just notch, but you scored one of the goals, if not the goal of the season. Like what were your memories of the Southampton games, Charlie?
Well, the first one, Mark, when Sean scored, that was midweek, and I hadn't signed by then. I'm pretty sure that was quite early.
You're right, actually, mate. Yes.
Yeah, I'm sure it's like third or fourth game. I hadn't signed by then.
Yeah.
But the away game, we was on a good bit of run. We was actually. I know Swindon. I read. I'm with that. I totally get it. But there was something about that blue kit, mate.
Yeah.
There was something about that blue kit, man. I don't know. Do you know what I mean? It was something about that words. It was something about that blue kit. And anyway, I remember going to St Mary's and never been there before. It was, I don't think it was packed. Like there's 20,000 there or whatever. It was, but they was a massive club. They had their struggles beforehand, but it was a massive club. Some good players. They just signed Ricky Lambert from Bristol Rovers, who was a big player. They had Adam Lallana playing, Jose Font, Kelvin Davis and goal. And you know what? We weathered a storm. Let's not mess about. We weathered a storm. I missed a chance just before half time. Left side of the box, I think it was, dragged a shot wide that should have hit the target with. And then the second half just come and Wardy put me in, and I'm one-on-one with the keeper. And I think it's not my style to go around the keeper, so I'm not sure what was going on. I think the keeper just come running out like a raging bull. I just touched it past him, and I think he just slid back 10, just kept going.
Yeah.
And I had the empty net and rolled it in, and it was just a magnificent 1-0 away win for the club, for the players, and listen, I think there might be about 1,500, 2,000. I might be doing a bit of disjustice here, but 1,500, 2,000 away fans. Do you know what I mean?
So
it was amazing.
Obviously, you weren't involved in the first game, but I think the reason I'm talking about it was more that you kind of got that one. The club had already got that one, or the team had got that one under its belt. Did that figure at all in the build-up to the second game? Did the first game figure at all in anyone's minds? Like, were you expecting sort of more of the same, or did your teammates feel they already had the measure of this team, and that you were boxing on 11 car? Or?
No, because you still look at their squad, Mark, and they were strong. Regardless, they were strong. Do you know what I mean? You knew every game, even any league now, wherever you go away from home, you pick up points away from home. It's a bonus. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that was it. We'd go in there. It would be a tough night, but we had momentum with us. I think we was deadly. We was in the playoffs by this point. I'm pretty sure we was in there. If we wasn't, we was very close to it. And we knew if we give the best for us, they would have to match us, and it'd be in for a good game. And if I'm honest, that they probably dominated for 60, 70 minutes of the game, and it could just come down for the one moment that we scored and won the game, which was great for us, and I think that pushed us on. And I want to say, because it is about me, of course. We won 1-0 at Southampton. We beat Brighton away 1-0, and we beat Hartlepool away 1-0. All Austin.
Yeah.
Clearly,
mate, goals, mate. That's it, isn't it? Listen, goals win games, obviously. But the other point, speaking as a goalkeeper, we could defend, couldn't we, that season? Our defensive unit was absolutely tremendous.
We were solid. Like I said, we had big side. All right, Alan Shearer's not the biggest, but the three other boys, big boys, body on the lines. Do you know what I mean? Big man, like that, big, strong, powerful, tough defender. And then you had Gordon and Scotty, two Scots at heart on their sleeves. You just like I think sometimes they prefer to head the back of your head than what they would the ball. Do you know what I mean? They wouldn't ask. They were just like that, and they just winners, and they would just give everything 110% every time we went across the white line, really. And it was just.
Let's not forget Big Lucas as well. Obviously, Dave Lucas he was certainly at the latter stages of his career, which is maybe a little bit harsh for a goalkeeper. You won't thank me for saying that. But it had a long career at that stage, very well regarded career by the time he arrived at Swindon Town. And not only did you have Dave Lucas, but then you also had Smudge as his backup, and Phil Smith was again. You're talking two big goalkeepers, and Phil Smith was deceptively big as well. I don't think only when you stand next to Phil Smith on the pitch you realise he's a lump, isn't he?
Yeah, he's a big skin. We had good goalies, and we had good goalies and good presence. You know what I mean? Like you say, Dave got injured and Phil stepped in and performed very well. Dave come back in. They both made match-winning saves throughout the season. You know, so as much as me and Billy and the rest of that scored the goals up the top end of the pitch, the goalies and defenders deserve as much credit as we did.
Well, listen then, mate. Obviously, we talked about Southampton, and I mean, again, we could always build a show around the Leeds game. So let's not spend too much time on it, much to the frustration of our listeners, but only because I really want to get on to the playoffs. But I mean, the double over Leeds, that Leeds team were top draw, by the way, but we didn't just beat them. As I said in the introduction, we absolutely spanked them. And you and Billy, obviously, both amongst the goals in a big way. Yeah. The blue kit gets another airing. So, what are your memories from the Leeds game, Charlie?
Crazy, mate. The home game was on a Tuesday night, wasn't it? And it was. And I'm sure that was the first time I played at home when we had about. So I think I want to say about 12,000 because it was the first game that the Stratton Bank was full, Mark.
That's right.
Leeds put all their fans. It may have been 13,000, 14,000, I don't know, but it was a brilliant atmosphere from both sets of fans, and it was an exciting game because it was the first one I really played in where it was the county ground was full, you know, and was just one of them. We went into it. They was near the top, I think. Second, I'm not sure how close it was to Norwich at the time, but we were still trying. We was picking up momentum, but we knew it was going to be a tough game, and we just went in it like we always did, approached it like we always did, and I think after about 20 minutes, I got slipped through another touch and scored. And I just think that now I know throughout my career that breeds confidence into the team. I think it calms the team down when you get in front against a big team, but it also energizes the crowd. Sometimes you just need a goal. You need the goal to get a bit of life in the crowd. Although the life was there, or I think all it needed was a big tackle. Do you know what I mean? Or a decision to go your way that lifts the crowd. And that was it. From the moment of kickoff, they was loud, but when we scored it, they just raised it again and again and again. And look, at least Bill scored two in the other, and I got fouled for the penalty, and Bill scored. And let's be honest, we was deservedly winners 3-0 at home. And in our minds, we was going there. We was going to Ellen Road again. They're second. I think we're fourth at the time. It was going to be a good game. And Bill actually had a goal disallowed before he scores in the first half. Then he scores one just before half time. We're in the dressing room, we're like, right, come on, keep your composure, keep going. Look, there's not like fast start, all the usual stuff. And then I think 6 or 7 minutes in, Bill bangs one in the top corner, and we dominated them. And then he lays one back to Darbs, and I managed to be in the right place at the right time, 6 yards out for a header. And again, after 60 minutes at Ellen Road, we're winning 3-0. Ellen Road starts emptying, and then town fans start singing, "Is there a fire drill?" You know what I mean? It was incredible. It was like an incredible experience. First time I'd experienced Ellen Road. And to go there and win 3-0 was phenomenal, really.
Yeah, because they're not easy fans to silence either, are they, Leeds fans? I appreciate they were obviously having their own troubles at the time, and they were really going through it. But by the same token, they're still one of those sort of sets of supporters that are just raucous from the start. But I think that was the key. You just literally ripped the guts out in that game.
Yeah.
There was just, by the time the goals were in the back of the net, there's still plenty of the game left. But it was just, you could tell it was done and dusted. And such a big, strong unit, such great shape amongst the town team. Every time they went forward thereafter, I remember just sort of sitting thinking, I just felt supremely confident. It's like, you ain't getting anything out of this. Like, there's just one of those rare games where you sort of sat back going, this feels like, I don't know. You like to say if something's too good to be true, it usually is. And having done Wembley '93 and seen us be 3-0 up and then Leicester pull us back to 3-3, there's always that in the back of the mind of a town fan of a certain generation. But I mean, Tyler, I'll bring you in at this stage because obviously as somebody that was new to sort of attending games at Swindon Town, but someone that, from a young age really did sort of know his footy. I mean, your family are football through and through and through. What what that must have been exceptional bragging rights for you. Leeds double, Southampton double, and you've got this lad up front banging in all the goals that's living a Roy of the Rovers sort of existence. What were your thoughts, mate? Those must have been highlights for you.
Yeah, definitely, because obviously, like for me, it was probably the same as it was for Charlie. It was probably the first time that I ended up going, and it was near enough sold out at the county ground. So for me, it was definitely like surreal seeing how filled out it was, and when everyone's singing, and when you get the county ground going, it can be really, really loud. Obviously, I was like, what, 6 at the time, so I didn't do the away game, but looking back at the videos, I wish I did, because that would have been amazing as well.
Yeah. Oh, makes the hair stand up at the back of my neck thinking back of those games. It really does, especially given where those clubs have gone on to, and we'll get there eventually. I know we will, but Charlie, let's get back to the playoffs. So obviously we don't although it started well against Millwall, we've ended up losing the game. Results elsewhere didn't go in our favour. We're in the playoffs. You know that Charlton Athletic are the side that we're facing. What were the thoughts amongst the squad having pulled Charlton before a ball's even been kicked? What were you guys thinking?
We'll take that. Even though we played Huddersfield and we drew them 2-2 away and 2-1 at home, we didn't want to play Millwall. We was never going to play them, so that was it. We'd take Charlton because I won't lie to you, Mark. We played them on Boxing Day and it was 2-2. They scored a 95th minute. Liera lobbed Dave, I think, at the time, and they had fucking 9 men, and we battered, and they scored and took a point. And then at home, it was a dreadful game. It was 1 Ev scored. It was just one of them. And so I thought, right, listen, we take our chances. We trained all week, fine. And then I think 2 days before, Billy got injured, and it was like, shit. All right, well, that puts us behind the 8 ball a little bit. But the game was just there for us. We had nothing to lose, everything to gain. You're in the playoffs, it's a 2-legged affair. Get on with it. But we didn't want to. You don't want to throw it away in the first leg. But Charlton almost did, because I had 3 chances in the first 10 minutes. Just couldn't get it past the keeper. Do you know what I mean? It was one of them. But the fans were brilliant there. Again, it was a sellout. It was a fantastic atmosphere. It was a fantastic occasion. The first half, after them 10 minutes, was like a bit of a blur. It was back and forth, end to end, typical cagey affair, really. And then the second half,
I mean, I had a lot of personal stake in this, Charlie. I did Rich put him very kindly some time ago now, invited me on the Low Strangers, and sort of he did a bit of the This Is Your Life in reverse. So it was me talking about me and my fandom of Swindon Town, and I went into quite a lot of detail about how important South East London games are for me. And they're to me, they actually carry as much weight as when we play that yellow mob up the A420. They're huge for me, because I had a rough old time at school. Was a Swindon Town fan growing up in South East London. I had a rough old time. So going into these playoffs, mate, knowing that we had both Charlton and Millwall, to me it kind of felt like I was a horse running the Grand National. And we're approaching those 2 like bloody enormous great jumps that we've got to get over, and you can see the glory at the other side of it. So yeah, I mean it was as you say, a bit of a shocker that Bill got injured, but obviously Wardy slots in quite nicely, and we've also got the opportunity to bring Alan O'Brien in on the left hand side, super rapid. So obviously we go, it seems like at one point it's kind of plain sailing, isn't it? Obviously we've gone in goalless at half time, 52 minutes rolls round. Talk me through your goal, Charlie. What do you remember of it?
Remember it all. We'll go forward. Alan Sheehan comes forward. Alan O'Brien, comes forward and passes it into Wardy, but I'm still on the edge of the box, right hand side. Dan flicks the ball around the corner, left footed, on the bounce. Alan's going down the left, and just quite handy, he didn't take a touch. He just puts it into an area, and I just have a run on Gary Brathwaite, I think his name was, and I thought, he's getting it, and the ball's going in, and just the timing, everything was perfect, and boom, and it was in, and it was an amazing feeling. Do you know what I mean? Score at the Town and put us 1-0 up. It was, for me, definitely, because like I said, I had a couple of chances in the first half, but to go 1-0 up was superb. And not long after, I think like 10 minutes later, we're defending a corner, and I think it's the first time I've seen Si not only run 60 yards, but 60 yards with the ball and no one fucking tackling him.
Well, look, Q, obviously your first goal goes in. Q, one of the most iconic Swindon Town celebrations. There's a couple of things. We've had Nick Judd has asked me. So Nick was stood next to me in the second leg, which we'll come on to, where I made a guest appearance looking a bit of a wally when the cameras picked me out. The Sky cameras picked me out in the away end. But what was the Nick wants to know what was going on with Gary Lineker dressing on your wrist, mate. What was the story behind that?
I broke my scaphoid, which basically is a stupid little bone in your hand that you don't even need, and I broke it in training. I went then what's his name? I can't even think of his flipping name now. The physio, I can't even think of his name. It's gone out of my head. It took me to the hospital. Dick Mackey, that's Dick. 2 weeks before took me to, well, not even 2 weeks before, it was a couple of months before, took me to the hospital, and they made me this cast to wear, and I scored a couple of goals wearing it, so I thought, I'm just going to keep it on. That was it, and that was the reason. So I broke a stupid little bone, which basically the scaphoid just inside the thumb. Well, I don't really need. You don't even need it, but I had a crack in it, so I needed to wear a brace, and I kept it on.
So what was it? So it weren't superstitious then, Charlie, or was it? It seems like you might have a bit of superstition about you with this.
I broke it, and then I was just like, I'll just keep it on. You never know, it might go again. Even though I don't even need it, but just added it to me. And then the next one you're going to ask me about with Tim's, aren't you?
Yeah, go on.
Tim said to me, Chaz, if you score, you have to come over and shine your boots. But I scored a header, so I couldn't exactly put my head on his fucking knee, could I? That was the story. That was just the two stories about that, mate.
Amazing. So then, obviously, Waldy makes things on the surface of things. We're cruising, aren't we? 60 minutes.
Yeah.
Danny Ward scores a beauty. Martin Tyler's commentary, absolutely iconic. Yeah. And we're looking absolutely handsome as you like. And then, unfortunately, up the other end, former Swindon Town loanee Dion Burton goes and does what Dion Burton does and sends the away fans into raptures. It was a bit of an old goal to concede that, wasn't it? What were your memories of Dion Burton's goal? I mean, I'll tell you what, Charlie, from a Swindon fan's point of view, he's one of those lads, when we signed him, I was like, God, that's a bloody good signing, that. Like, this lad's got real pedigree. I can see him really settling in. And he reminded me of Tony, when we brought in, like, the likes of Tony Thorpe. I mean, Jamie Curran scored goals, but Tony Thorpe and latterly, who's the big lad, the ex-Derby boy, similar story when Paolo brought him in. Tyler, help me out here.
Chris Martin.
Yes, thank you. He was another example. He ended up giving us that kind of delivery, and it was a bit like, and so inevitably, like all ex-Swindon players do, Burton comes back and scores. What was your recollections of their goal, and what did that psychologically do anything to you?
Not really, because your away goals didn't count, but Dave should have stayed in his goal and the ball would have ran through. They just one hopeless ball over the top. Dave's come rushing out, and Theon's just got in front of him. To be honest, Dave clatters him. He's getting sent off, isn't he? Do you know what I mean? So Theon just gets at times right and heads it in. And in the playoffs, you just need that one bit of spark to get your team back in the tie. All right, it doesn't make it 2-2, but it puts them right in the mix, gets them that belief when the final whistle goes. But not only should it be 2-1, I think I come off 89 and Vince has a chance, don't he, about 93 minutes when he hits the post.
Yeah.
And I feel like that would have put the tie to bed then. But look, it was one of them. We was delighted to win the home game and go to Monday night and go to the Valley.
Well, so moving on to the second game. I mean, obviously, on reflection, if you talk about from a supporter's point of view, and no doubt the players actually, obviously, peak of celebrations and levity. I mean, the second leg was really something special. It's there's a term that seems to get used quite a lot, which is people say it's the most Swindon-y of things. And there was a lot about this game that was very Swindon-y, Charlie, if you get my meaning. So, obviously, what were your recollections then in the build? Were there any stories in the build-up to the second leg? Anything sort of going on behind the scenes that you're sort of looking at and going, what's going on in terms of the psychology of the players? What are you being told going into that second game with that thin advantage?
Just don't leave anything out there. Don't leave anything to waste. Just give yourself a good go. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. So we've got obviously the game's fair to say doesn't quite go to plan. Interesting own goal from Cy Ferry, and then we've got a situation where they go into a 2-0 lead, and then things go from bad to worse when
we've done at half time, Mark.
Yeah,
we're in the dressing room. We're like deflated at half time. We thought we're done.
Yeah.
Well, because Bill played 60 minutes, I think, and he shouldn't have played. But it was one of them where he's your top scorer, you got to play him. Do you know what I mean? He shouldn't have played. Yeah. And that was it. But when he come out, we stay in the game 2-0, and then a moment of madness from Gordon. I think for all the goodness that he done, it was that unfortunately is just the lasting memory of what. All right, it's his last game for the club. Do you know what I mean? But that's the lasting memory, isn't it, of him just putting his big size 12 in the chest of Diop Burton.
Yeah, I mean, it was a very, very bizarre thing. But then obviously you had, I mean, from a fan's point of view, Charlie, how aware were you of what the Charlton squad members were saying on the mic at half time? Did you pick up on any of that?
Nothing.
Did you hear any of it?
Nothing. I still couldn't tell. I've got half decent memory. I couldn't tell you that now, Mark.
Well, I'll tell you for nothing. I mean, my memory from the stands was Sam Soji coming out on the mic and their announcer saying to him, "That's it now, isn't it, Sam? Like, well, that's got to be it." And he started basically singing songs that we're going to Wembley. And then obviously Gordy, we come out in the second half, we're scrapping away, but then Gordy gets the red. But then a moment of magic happens, doesn't it? Almost out of the blue. Talk us through our goal. Talk us through your recollections of Wardy's strike.
Well, do you know what? Credit goes to the referee, you know, because you could blow up for a foul before Wardy gets the ball. When JP gets the ball on the halfway line, just no one seems to press him, and he keeps going. He's 40 yards from the goal, 30 yards from goal, 25, and he almost. I think JP's trying. Only JP knows this. It looks like a great pass. I think JP's trying to whack one in the top corner, but the fella fouls him from behind. The ref allows play to go on, and ball goes to Danny, has the touch outside the left, and then just rolls it under Darren Randolph, and it's game on. It's 2-1. And I felt on that tide turn then, you could see him a little bit. Do you know what I mean? They was holding on then because we had the momentum as such. So it was like, right, come on, this is game on. We can go and get up. We can go and get. All right, we're down to 10 men. We know what can we hope for. Try and get to penalties. So we might as well just have a good go.
And then
we certainly did that.
Yeah, I mean, what makes it even easier for us is that obviously they then go down to 10 men as well.
Hey, we would not go to penalty. If he don't bring me down, if we don't go to penalties, I'll score them.
All day long.
I score them, this game over, and I think that's very late. But the referee does really well and sends him off and strong with his decision because you're at home, they're at home, and they might not make that choice. Do you know what I mean? And look, they did. And then it becomes the penalties, and you're almost like, oh my God. But you've got to look at our penalty table. Look at our penalty table. Say you look at our thing, you're like, right, I'm going to pick 5. Well, you could have said me, you could have said Wardy. Billy's not on the pitch. You say JP, good penalty taker. Other than that, you're thinking, like, where are we going from? But to be fair, Dan put his hand up, Kev put his hand up, and it was it, mate. It was game on. I took the work. I was quite glad Bailey's went so bad, mate. Mine was horrendous. I was meant to go to the keeper's right. It was bad. It just went down the middle. But as I've learned, Mark, it don't matter how they go in, mate. They all count.
Quite right. Well, do you know what I was going to ask you about your penalty, Charlie? Because it was quite an uncharacteristic finish from you. And it's fair to say, obviously, so Nicky Bailey, from their perspective, is a bit of a dead shot from set pieces. And he missed. And then, obviously, I'm literally thinking, oh my God! But I noticed a little bit of cheeky shithousing from you, Charlie. What was being said? Do you remember any standout comments? Because you gave the Charlton fans a little wink and a little gesture, didn't you?
A little bit. No, I was just in pure relief, just come out. But he was like very. Nicky was very confident, but when it was his turn to go, he was on a march. He was like marching to the thing, and he almost thought he was going to try something spectacular. And when I mean by that, listen, he's tried to blast it in the top corner, and I know Fraser Richardson does that like his 4th or 5th penalty, doesn't he? Bangs, I think it's the best one out of the 10, or whatever. But do you know what I mean? He tried to do it and missed, and then listen, it's game on. Next minute's Kev takes the 3rd, I think, and the keeper gets a hand to it.
Yeah.
Then Wardy was always going to score, and he was always going to the keeper's left, whips it in.
And then we've got Darbs. Tell me about Darbs, because, mate, we're behind the ball at this point, and we see Darbs walking up.
That's what I'm saying to you, but if you looked at the 10 lads that finished the game, where are you going? Because Si was shitting himself. He was never taking one. Scotty Cuthbert was never taking one. Phil definitely wasn't taking one. Dougie didn't want to take one, so it was a good job we won in 5. I couldn't even tell you to this day he was taking the 6. I couldn't. But Darbs was like, just knew it. You just knew it. And if you look back now, if you've seen replays now, the camera looks at Darbs and watching. He looks at one side of the one corner and bangs it in the other one.
Classic. It was absolute. And yeah, Q Bedlam. I mean, it is definitely in there as one of my top 3 all-time Swindon Town moments. I mean, there was absolute bedlam in the away end when that went in. But then, obviously, look, let's then fast forward, mate, because now we're on our way to Wembley. And there were some interesting team selections and some interesting kit selections. And there were some things that, from a fan point of view, I was okay, so I was a sponsor, I was a fan. And, you know, obviously we're there at Wembley. I've got a few hats on going into that game. And an interesting story, Charlie. I wanted to ask you about the choice of colour of kit. What was your recollection? Do you remember a player vote, or do you remember being dictated?
No. Dictated. All I can remember is when Swindon was... What did Swindon win the FA Cup or League Cup?
69, when we won the League Cup.
Did they wear white?
All white, yeah.
We did, yes.
That is why we wore white. I know it is, because when they won in 91, 92 to get promoted, that was red. That's the only reason. I'm adamant. I'm adamant that was the only reason. I'm sure it is. No, I'm actually it is. That was what the chat was. I'm adamant it was.
Well, I was also,
why we didn't wear red? Was you? Is that what you were told?
Put it this way, I was told that, but then I'll also tell you that I remember leaving the Valley that night and getting a very, very frosty phone call from our good friends at EA, who wanted to know how the hell we've ended up wearing the blue shirt at Charlton when we've worn the red shirt with 442 on it in the first leg, and then we're wearing the third kit in the second leg with 442 on it. And there are just some basic commercial realities when you're a major sponsor of a football club that, you know, brands would like, you know, there's more to it than just the big brand stuff and the awareness piece. But there is a little bit of, hang on a minute, Mark, have you had a word here? Like, why have you ended up on TV on both games? And let's just say, I was very well aware that the club had a, you know, because I said, listen, it genuinely was nothing to do with me, that selection. As you said, the blue kit, the players loved the blue kit. That was as far as I was aware of. But yes, but no, let's just say I had assurances it was all to do with 69, and I was politely asked not to ask any more questions about it. And I said, all right, look, fair dues. We've done brilliantly with Swindon up to that stage, and I just wanted everyone to just enjoy themselves and have some harmony. It made no bones to us really from a 4-4-2 point of view. But all right, interesting. But then obviously the team selection, Charlie. Now, what was your take when you saw the team sheet go up? Because as you said, Bill had been struggling with injury. He'd only 60 minutes at Charlton. Didn't look that great. Because people have come on to listen to you, Charlie, right? But I've always wanted to say this to someone that was in the team at the time. I would have gone Wardy up top, and I would have gone Alan Bryan on the left, and I would have gone Darbs at right back. But Danny did the complete opposite, didn't he? So what was your take from the inside?
Danny loved Kev. Kev was our solid right back. Darbs could play left back, could play right back, but he went with Kev for the occasion. It was as simple as that, I believe, and he warranted to play. But Mark, how do you, regardless of how Billy played in for 60 minutes, how do you leave your top scorer out that declares himself fit? It's not possible.
It's a tough one, mate.
It's not. I don't think, because goals win games, and it could fall at him at any point. Do you know what I mean? The form he was in throughout the season, it was one of them, and it didn't pay off in the end.
No, I mean, listen, my rationale was Danny Ward brings pace, Alan Bryan brings pace, and they're Millwall quite sedate at the back, for want of a better word. And I wanted us to have a proper go at them, and with a nice big wide pitch, I thought perfect opportunity.
Yeah,
but obviously he didn't go for it. He didn't go for that. But there was also there'd been a little bit of a I mean, I don't know, again, whether much was said at the time, and I appreciate there's things you can and can't say, but there had been a bit of a spat between Kevin Manquer and Neil Harris, and the Millwall fans seemed to really rattle Kev that day. Is that fair, or did that not bother him
I'd
at all?
say I think that'd be a fair comment. I think that'd be a fair comment. And then when you look at it, Mark, when you say things like that, and you think, do you know what, maybe he should have played Darb. Darb's fearless, just get on with it from Liverpool. Like, there's no affiliation going on with the Millwall fans. They've got nothing to say about Darbs. They're not going to sing about Darbs, etc. Where on the other hand, they are with Kev. Do you know what I mean? So it's a tough one. But I think the occasion and the way the Millwall fans were, that kind of probably got to Kev that day.
Well, listen. I mean, we've just had. I almost don't want to go into too
much.
Come on,
get to it.
No. Well, this is the thing. I was going to ask you about Danny Wilson and his team talk, but Danny's just done a brilliant podcast with Rich Pullen, and I would recommend anyone goes and has a listen to that for the Danny Wilson side of the story, and I think that's only fair to do. But yes, Charlie, there is the inevitable moment. Now, here's the thing, Charlie. I think I might have told you this story.
Go on.
2 or 3 days after that game, I was invited by the FA to go and play on the pitch, and we got a stern telling off from the groundsman, because guess what I did before kickoff? I walked over to that very spot, and I literally jumped up and down and shouted, probably about 6 times at the top of my voice, "Bastard, bastard, bastard!" At which point, the Wembley groundsman literally proper goose stepped across the pitch. Yeah. Came up and he started jabbing me in the chest with his finger, going, "What the bloody hell do you think you're doing?" Yeah. And I said to him, "Mate, listen, if I was to tell you I'm a Swindon Town fan," and he literally just looked at me and started laughing. He went, fair play, mate, fill your boots, I'll repair it after.
It's honestly, I don't know. I remember it as clear as day. Ball goes to the halfway and Robertson goes to clear it, heads it to me. Excuse me, I headed it past him and I'm in 1-on-1 at Wembley, 80,000. I'm going in, I know exactly what I'm doing. I'm just going to open up and bend it past and the forward in goal, and I'll take it half a yard earlier, it goes in. I'll take it half a yard later, I end up changing my shot, but it goes in again still. But at that moment, it just comes up and hits me on the shin, mate, and went like an absolute bullet past the fucking goalkeeper and past the post, and it was a nightmare. It was just, I don't know, it was just like everything was coming in, and even like I think it was like the 90th minute, I had a shot I slipped and shot and forward tipped around the post for a corner. But if that was a moment that you were so close to, yet so far away, mate.
Well, listen, from a fan's point of view, Charlie, it's fair to say, I mean, I was literally diagonally, I was on the halfway line across from the players' tunnel, and I was diagonally behind you as you barrowed in on goal. And everything about it was classic Charlie Austin, right up until the bobble. Your movement, your body shape, the angle of your foot as you've gone to sort of literally click through the ball. And you literally, from the stands, you could see that the ball had bobbled up. Yeah. And it was so close, wasn't it? I mean, that's football, isn't it? It's fine margins all over the place.
It is. I remember seeing the chairman after, Andrew Fitton, and honestly, he was so angry. He was so angry. He didn't want to speak to nobody. He said, "Charlie, what? Like, that Bob was an absolute disgrace. We're going to speak to the FA. Obviously, not speak to the FA. Like, not going to do nothing. Do you know what I mean? But put a complaint in, etc., etc." It was just one of them moments. And do you know what? I look back at that moment. I look back at the moment that I don't move in that summer. I look back at the moment I eventually moved to Burnley, then got injured and didn't play for 6 months. The whole failed medical, so another year in the Championship. I look back at them moments and think, do you know what? They happen for a reason. Say Swindon get promoted and we sign players, and that's absolutely fine, but I'm not ready for the Championship. Maybe I needed another 6 months in League One. Maybe I needed an extra year in the Championship before the Premier League. Do you know what I mean? I had to put another spin on it. I had to. Do you know, that was the only way I could do it.
Look, Charlie, I'll tell you this for nothing, and I think I speak for every Swindon Town fan that's listening on this, mate. Whilst it was brilliant you hung around for another season with us in League One, we all 100% knew you were ready for the championship, and you were unbelievably unfortunate that night. And like I say, you proved it. The next season, you classed the number of goals you scored in a very poor team. You're a sinking ship. It's probably fair to say. And I mean, I've got so here's a little note in from Daz in Black from Twitter. Daz was in the army at the time, and he said to say, Charlie, I was in the Falklands watching that game on my own, screaming at the TV when that bobble happened. And he just said, how many times since have you relived it? Now, you kind of, I guess you sort of answered that. It's clearly something that sort of, was on your mind. I mean, you're inconsolable at the final whistle, weren't you? But it did. When you have a moment like that, Charlie, in your career, because you must look back now, the number of goals you scored and the levels you scored them at, it's not something that hampered you. How did you deal with that? How did you, as a young man, put that behind you and move on?
I had a good pre-season and just got back on it. I knew now I had like a bit of a reputation. That was no longer like my first year. Come back from pre-season, scored a couple, and I scored on the opening day of the season. Then I had tapping at the town end against Brighton, got beat 2-1. But that was it. As a striker, you just want to get off that zero straight away, and that's what I did. And I was young, don't forget, Mark, and I could have went either way, but I've got broad shoulders, and I just got on with it. And I think it just kind of made me think, right, come on, let's do better. Let's continue doing what you can. Look, it was a freak thing that happened on the pitch, and it was one that nobody could do anything about. It just happened. So the best way and the only way I knew how to get over it was to try and score some more goals.
Yeah, and you did that and some, mate. And so, okay, so like you say, it all kind of, we all end up back in the changing room. What was the mood after the game? Who was rallying the troops? Who was broken? Who was sitting quiet? Where did you go from there, Charlie?
Everyone was quiet. Now, you need to remember, I've been promoted to the Premier League with QPR. Do you know what I mean? I've won a playoff final and I've lost a playoff final. Now, in the playoff final losing dressing room, there's 2 cases of beer. And in the playoff final winning dressing room, there's cases and cases and cases and cases of beer and champagne.
Yeah.
So there was literally 2 cases of beer in the middle of the change room, and the lads were just sat there. No one was talking. I think it was more just gutted. Everyone was exhausted from the season, but just morale was very, very low. And the manager just come in and just said, lads, I appreciate everything you've done this season. Give us a chat, kind of thing to us. And that was it. There was really no words, Mark. Do you know what I mean? Everyone was so disappointed and gutted. Everyone had families there.
Yeah.
We had 40,000 Swindon fans there, for Christ's sake. Do you know what I mean? There's a hell of a lot of people there, and it was just, maybe it was just a step too far. I don't know, but like you say, Danny's done a podcast with Rich Pullen, so he's probably gone across it on there. Do you know what I mean? I can't really. All I can remember is there wasn't a lot spoken after because the lads were just, I don't know. It was just a tough one to take. It really was.
Yeah. Well, listen, mate. We put all that behind us, and we went on to. We had another day in the sunshine under Paolo after you've gone, and we've had our successes under Richie, and there's been a lot of downs, there's been a lot of ups, and I know you've always kept in touch. I don't want to talk about it because you took a lot of flack when you left the club from certain quarters. And the way that unfolded, but then equally, time's been very, very, very kind in that respect, Charlie. You know, you're still revered at our place, which leads me on to my final question for you, Charlie, for the night, and that's, as I'm sure you're, as a man that is certainly
aware,
as a striker,
I'm aware of what's coming.
Yeah, well, you're approaching. Charlie, you're approaching the twilight of your career, and as people love a nice circular narrative, what's the future looking like, mate? Are we ever going to see you in the red and white again? And why is the answer not no?
I don't know. The brute honesty is I don't know. Right. I really don't know. Listen, I want to play football. I want to score goals wherever that will be, and if the opportunity comes, and I don't know. I can't put. If the opportunity comes, then it would be tough to turn down. But at the moment, I feel good. I feel like I'm playing a team that's fighting to get promoted, and I'm involved in a team and a football club that's trying to get promoted. That I've got such an affiliation with Mark, the same as what I have with Swindon, because they're local to me. But do you know what I mean? With QPR, it was just different because we had that promotion to the Premier League. It was just been superb from the moment I've walked in that door there. But for the biggest answer I can give you, mate, is I truly don't know. I have been to the club this year. I've watched a couple of games. I was invited 3 times, which was nice from the chairman, and I have spoken to him. I have spoken to them. I spoke to Ben and Ben Chorley and stuff. I have spoken to them, and they was picking my brain and stuff. And like, I don't know.
Listen, Charlie, I don't want to make things awkward for you, mate. And listen, I've also got that. It would be really unfair not to tip our hat to at the QPR supporters down the road who you've got that relationship and affiliation with. As you say, you've got an incredibly tight relationship with that football club. And even though I am a fan of, your first professional club, I like to regard myself as someone that loves football per se. And if I heard, a Harry McCurdy talking up, another football club. But I guess I just want to make sure if there are any QPR fans listening, hopefully tonight's framed why Charlie is so special to us. And also, I'd also frame it this way as well, that they're like in football, you would imagine there is always going to be a life beyond a club that you're at. And I guess my question would be more along the lines of, Charlie, if when time does come to an end at QPR, before you hang up your boots, do you reckon you might give us a season? And is there some unfinished business?
There's every chance. There's every chance if my body can go for as long as it can do. But like I say, mate, the best thing I can do, it is maybe a possibility, but I can only give my best constantly for QPR for as long as I'm there. And the thing is, Mark, I don't really want to leave there for the time being. I'm part of the football club that I want to be at in my career. I want to be at this football club at this part of my career,
Yeah, and rightly so. And do you know what, Charlie? Fair play to you in that respect, because you've always it's the spirit that's threaded through this podcast, and we spent a lot of time talking about this, mate, right at the start of the show, was that you've never been afraid to sort of. You recognise the importance of fans. You've always been very open. You talk to people. Even only this week I followed you engaging with QPR fans who have been having a bit of a moan about the form the team's in, and you unlike a lot of pros, you do poke your head above the parapet, and you do say your pet, and you're not afraid to say that. And the thing that always shines through when you do that is just how much you do care about the clubs that you play for.
Yeah.
And like I say, mate, my question to you is purely tongue-in-cheek, because I think the QPR fans will understand you've got legendary status at our place, mate, and it'd be a dream to see you back in the side. But listen, Charlie, we've had so much of your time tonight, and I appreciate that it's getting to a point where you need to be chopped off. Tyler, have you got any questions for Charlie before we wrap up Charlie's little segment here?
No, not that I can think of.
We've covered off pretty much everything. I mean, Charlie,
questions to ask, Mark? You got any questions to ask me from people?
Listen, I'm more than happy to give people the opportunity. One of my biggest frustrations, I would like some people to come on live and ask you the question. So if anyone's listening and they've got a burning question and they want to just hit that little button that says speaker request, you will pop on this list and I will turn them on. But they're notoriously shy on my show, mate. They're notoriously shy. I have got a couple of questions here, though, Charlie, that I am just fishing up that are popping into my DMs. Yeah. So here's one for you, Charlie. It said, off the field, Charlie, off the field. You at times in your career, you've had an awful lot going on off the field. How did you keep your focus on the pitch when things off the field weren't going as well for you as you would have hoped them to have gone? And how much do people like Nick Watkins, etc., help you off the pitch? And that's come from Nick in Wokingham.
When you go on the pitch, everything's forgotten about.
Mm-hmm.
When you go across that white line, everything's forgotten about. You've got your concentration levels are there. It's like it's your sanity, your 90 minutes, just forgotten about whatever's going on off the field. Do you know what I mean? One of them. It was about performing for the team. The paying public, the paying fans wasn't coming to watch the team and weren't worried about what I was doing off the field. They wanted me to score goals and perform for Swindon,
Yeah.
And to be honest with you, I didn't really have much dealings with Nick. Only speaking, he didn't really have much dealings with much of the team, so it was quite tough. You remember, most of the time I spoke, anything I needed was with Danny Wilson, who was first class for me the whole time.
Yeah, gotcha. Well, here's one for you, Charlie. If you look to your right on the listener list there, there's a certain Mr. Tom Broadbent has joined us. Are you a bigger legend than Tom Broadbent? In a red and white shirt.
I mean, it's hard when I'm on this show that says the Sir Tom Broadbent Lounge, aren't I? Do you know what I mean? So I'm assuming that's. Obviously not. However, he don't have a painting on the wall outside down Don Rogers' stand, mate. So I'm saying I am.
Tom, if you want to hit your emoji thumbs up there, mate, or down, say whether or not you agree. But hey, listen, mate, you're all over. I mean, this week alone, Charlie, we're on the Apple Store, we're on Google, we're on Spotify, we're all over the place. Tom's gone international, Charlie. You know, I don't know what to say to you. We've got Billy would like to come on and ask you a question directly, mate. I'll just turn Billy's mic on, and hopefully this will activate. Billy, if you hit your mic, mate, you can now speak to Charlie.
I got you.
Yeah, just a quick story and then a question. So you were the first ever footballer I had an autograph off. One of my family members picked it up. I think it was in a Hungerford butcher's.
Oh, nice. That's still there, actually. It's good butcher's, that.
But anyway, I'm in university in Sheffield at the minute. You're obviously here on Tuesday night. Any chance I could get your shirt?
If you want. That's all right, mate. Of course, I don't mind it. Yeah, no problem at all. You send the stuff to Mark. I'll tell you where to be, and you get it. You're gonna go to the game.
Yeah.
No problem. You tell Mark where you'll be, meet, and then I'll sort it, Mark. That's no problem.
Oh, thank you.
All right, we'll sort that out for you, Billy.
Cheers.
No sweat. All right, I'm just going to mute Billy, Charlie, because what I'm going to say is, mate, no, blow Billy, mate. Stick it at the post to me.
I thought you was going to get off this thingy, then text me that anyway, mate. So I'm glad we got that out of the way.
Now, Charlie, if you look just down below and to your left, I'm going to see if we can get Hoops to come on. Was Hoops the kit man when you were there, Charlie?
No, he wasn't. What does he want? He won't come on. He won't come on, mate. He won't come on.
I know he's sitting in the hotel with the boys at the moment, prepping for tomorrow, and he's been giving it Billy Big Bananas all day about coming. Oh look, he's going to come on and have a chat. All right, here we go. Let's see what his Wi-Fi's like. How are we, Hoops? Good evening.
Yeah, good, mate. You?
Yeah, very well. You're on with Charlie.
Hello, mate. How are you?
I'm all right. Come on, what do you want?
I don't know. He's just said I want to talk. I didn't really want to talk. To be fair.
That's not me. That's not me.
I've got nothing to say.
Hoops, you're such a letdown. I thought you were giving it all the large about you've got that long journey. I thought you would have armed yourself with a big question.
Just been listening to Jonah's rubbish for 4 hours.
Oh, Christ, what's he come up with this time?
No.
I'm not being funny, Hoops. If you're just going to come on to abuse our guest, mate, I'm just going to hit the mute. Look, you're off.
Yeah, get it off.
Now, let's see who else we got here. Let's see if we can tempt Tom to come on. He said, "Come on, Tom Broadbent. You're a big dirty centre half. I reckon you'd love to." You must have a question or two for him. I'll tell you what. What I'd like to know, Charlie, is dirty tricks, right? What's the dirtiest trick a centre half has played on you?
Don't know, really. Company was horrible to play against. John Terry was horrible to play against.
Oh, was he?
Yeah, he was tough to play against. They all the top centre halves have got tricks up their sleeves. Do you know what I mean? That's the hardest thing.
All right, Tom, you're on now, mate. What would you do what sort of dirty tricks would you have employed to keep Charlie in your pocket? Oh, Tom, please don't tell me you're talking with your mic off.
Oh, there you go. Hello, lads.
There he is. Evening, Tom.
Evening. How are we?
Yeah, we're very good, bud.
Good. I ain't got no tricks up my sleeve for him, mate.
Don't be so silly, Tom.
How would you deal with him, Tom? Would you go through a nice reducer in the first couple of minutes?
Let him know I'm there early. Yeah, it's got to be, you know.
Trust me, you'd have fucking got one back.
Now, boys, you're ticking a life box for me here. I've got Tom Broadbent and Charlie Austin going at it on the show. This is an absolute dream. Charlie, I'll flip the coin. How would you have dealt with Tom Broadbent early doors, bearing down on you?
I don't really know. If I'm honest, I know Billy would have tried to he'd have been worrying about Billy. So 9 times out of 10, I'd have been free, Mark.
Yeah, you would have been dealing with Johnny. You would have been dealing with Johnny Grounds. Johnny Grounds would have been on his arse. You would have been in for an hat-trick, mate. Don't worry about that.
I agree.
Just worry.
Right, Charlie. I reckon. What do you reckon? One more question, Charlie. The great rest of Reds want to come on and have a chat with you.
All right, mate. No problem.
See you later, lads.
All right, then. Let's see if we can get them on. So, Tom, you need to stay on because they might want to involve you in all of this. Who have we got from the Great Western Reds tonight, then? Come on, boys, turn your mic on. It's not.
Yeah,
hard.
there we go. Yeah, it's just me. Just me.
How are you, bud?
Good, thank you. Just dealing with my puppy attacking me. But so Peaks chatted the other night about his little tricks to get in the heads of defenders. Like he would just ask them what they're doing for dinner and shit. Like, what did you guys have any tricks? Like, Chaz, Austin and Painter up top must have had something going on getting their heads.
Oh, the verbals, Charlie. Yeah, the verbals.
I was too shy for that. That was Bill. Bill was quite good at that, but they was worried about Bill. I used to do the hard stuff and score, so that then they'd get the up. Got me. I was too young for that. As I'm older, I'm a lot more nastier now. But I was too young then. Honestly, on non-league days, I just didn't care. I used to hammer them all. I used to say, "You lot of shit, mate. How am I playing the same team as you? How are you playing against me?" I used to say to them. That was horrible. And I got into football league, couldn't really say it, but I was too young for that.
Okay. So. And then
Charlie, I used to rate myself when I was a goalkeeper. I used to rate myself with the verbals, and I played in a sort of lower amateur league right at the back end of my sort of playing days, and I played against. Have you ever heard of Lashings?
No. I haven't.
So basically, no. So Lashings down in Kent with the cricket would try to do a similar thing with the football. And they had a few sort of ex-pros turn out for them. And all I will say is with that unnamed ex-pro, and I was carrying on the way I used to, real gobshite in goal, really giving it to this lad. And he just came up and absolutely cut me to ribbons. And the things he said to me scar me to they were so bad I wouldn't repeat them on air. But, I mean, talk about intimidation. What he told me he was going to do after the game to me, my car, all kinds of horrible things. It's different level in a pro game, mate. The banter's pretty brutal, isn't it?
Yeah, it's not very nice, mate. It's not very nice.
Nah. Well, look, mate, Charlie, it's 10:30. You've been more than generous with your time. Mate, I'm so chuffed you come on. I hope you've enjoyed it. Please, don't be a stranger, mate. Is there anything you wanted to say by way of rounding off?
No, listen, just to thank you for asking me to come on. No, I appreciate that. Listen, I loved my time at Swindon. I really did. I enjoyed every moment. They give me an opportunity to go and express myself, and I took it with both hands. I'm thankful to all the town fans that backed me and got right behind me. Don't get me wrong, it ended badly on both sides, but that's football, and time's a healer, and I feel like it's healed enough. Do you know what I mean? And it's just a situation where unfortunately, I can go back. It's nice to see the town doing so well. I hope they can get into the automatics. I do, but I think if it's the playoffs, then so be it. I'll certainly be there if that is the case. And then fingers crossed. Look, the future looks bright for the club, and fingers crossed. Come when the season finishes, both football clubs can achieve promotion, and that's what I'd hope for. But once again, thank you for everybody that's listened. Mark, thanks for having me on, and to you, Tyler. All right.
It's great to have you, Charlie. Don't be a stranger, buddy. No doubt we'll catch you very soon, mate.
See you, Mark. Top man.
Ta-da, buddy.
Cheers.
Bye-bye.
Well, Tyler, what do you make of that then?
Oh, man, that man can talk for days, but who's complaining?
Yeah, I mean, so one of the biggest challenges when you've got a live show like ours, and great people are giving up their time. See you later, Tom. Tom's saying goodbye as well, Tyler. Great to have you, Tom. One of the problems that you've got with a live show, of course, is that you've got an hour to try and sort of squeeze as much in as you possibly can. And no matter how much planning you have around a personality like Charlie, the challenges are that you never really know when you're going to be able to get Charlie back on. Just because of the pause on his time. I mean, think about the things in Charlie's sort of sporting life we haven't talked about. I mean, Charlie is a frequent personality on TalkSport. There's a myriad of things you could talk about there. You've got his career, 2 spells at QPR. You've got Burnley. You've got Southampton. You've got West Bromwich Albion. You've got the England squad. You've got hundreds of goals at all kinds of levels of football. And obviously, I think at the moment, a lot of the banter is fan generated. A lot of the speculation is fan generated because Charlie's at a certain point of his career. As he said himself, he's been at the club. He's had his brains picked by people. But fans are going to put 2 and 2 together, aren't they? But if you take that, I mean, that in itself is another 2-hour show, isn't it? So, but how did you feel, Tyler? Did you feel that you got under the skin of the playoffs tonight? Some of the stories are great, aren't they? Some of his takes on his teammates, I thought, were fantastic.
It feels like you can finally let it go, let it sail into the sunset, and try our hardest to forget the bobble.
Never.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's a tricky one, isn't it? Because, like I said, I mean, everything Charlie did was right with that particular move. Like, I could not have had a better line. I was diagonal behind Charlie, lined up with that far post that the ball's whistled past. Everything he did, the way he robbed Robinson, burst through on goal, drew the keeper, the finish, like the body shape, everything, the pace on the ball was perfect. But you can't legislate for that bobble, And I think this is the thing. We've all seen that bobble on replay so many times that it's a malfunction of the pitch at the end of the day, beyond his control. But I mean, it would have been. I'll tell you what, Tyler. I'll put this question to you. The following season, I mean, we really were a sinking ship, and obviously, Rich and the guys at Low Strangers have gone into real depth with that with Danny this week. So I don't want to go over old ground. But testament to Charlie that season. I mean, the number of goals he bagged in a very, very poor team. What were your recollections, and indeed, how many goals do you reckon he would have gone on to score? If we had plugged the appropriate gaps. I mean, if he scored as many as he has in a poor side, you've got to be thinking 30 goals that season, surely.
Oh, definitely. I mean, I don't think I disagree with Rich. He probably is the best natural finisher that I've seen. And, I mean, if he's the best that Vic's seen, he's definitely the best I've seen. So,
yeah. I mean, I remember it was one of Charlie's very, very early games. If someone can come on and remind me what game this was, but it involved it come over from the left-hand side, so it must have been Sheehan. But Charlie was still pretty much an unknown quantity at that stage. I think he'd come off the bench. There was a big ball over the top. And Charlie's run on behind it, got in behind the centre halves. And we were talking about the Johnny Smith goal with his dad, weren't we, last week? And it was the way that Charlie took that ball down first time. People use that cliche, like it looks like he's playing the game in his slippers. Like, just such a beautiful touch. And I remember as soon as I saw that, I was like, this lad's got a massive future. The technique involved in that, I was like, no, that was, it oozed class. And then, yeah, the Carlisle goal, and the boy just never stopped scoring. Charlie's off air now, Tyler. What do you think was, do you think his exit could have been handled any better? Or, clearly in reflection, he did the right thing for his career, as history showed. But what were your recollections of his departure? Were you bitter about it at the time? Were you angry? As a man that's known to wear his heart on the sleeve, Tyler, were you angry at the time?
I was definitely angry at the time. He's my favourite player. So seeing him go is never nice. Same with when Yatesy ended up going to Blackpool, really, for me. It was a bit of I wish we could have kept him. But like you say, in the end, it was the best move for his career. So can you fault him? No, he's gone on to play in the Premier League regularly. Got called up to England. Admittedly, didn't play, which is very unlucky to have not played. But you don't get called up to an England squad for nothing.
No, you don't. Well, I'll tell you what. Okay, so here's a bit of a devilish question for you, Tyler. Charlie Austin, take our current squad. Let's say Charlie Austin does make his way back to the county ground. Who plays alongside him?
Harry McCurdy and Louis Barry.
Nice. Is that on the assumption we're keeping hold of Louis Barry next season, or would you be having a Tyrese Simpson, Charlie Austin, and Harry McCurdy?
Stop. No. There you go. Elbaz on the left, Maka on the right, Austin through the middle. That is heaven on earth.
Stuff the dreams.
Mate, imagine Austin getting on the end of some of these Alessandro deliveries we're getting at the moment. Some of us might just pass out from how good it is.
It really is. I mean, I think I'll tell you what's interesting, and I think it's only fair now that we can speculate. It's not fair putting Charlie on the spot, and having these conversations with him on. So I'm pleased he's no longer here. But however, I think the thing that I picked up on with what Charlie was saying there was that he wants to have. It sounds like he wants to just enjoy his football. He wants to score goals. He wants to have a bit of fun. I mean, he's certainly going to have that in this team, isn't he? The way that we move the ball about and the personalities we've got in the team as well. Do you think as a personality and as a player, he's a natural fit for the current setup?
Definitely. He's got that attitude with the fans where I think he'd get on well. He's clearly got a laugh and a joke about him. He seems a bit like Frenchie as well, though, where he is quite a family man, which you're not going to blame him when he's the age he is and trying to settle down now, trying to be with his family more.
Yeah.
And in terms of the way we play, he'd have a field day. I mean, look how many chances Davison and Tyrese have sort of missed this year. I mean, they're both young lads.
Well, good evening, everybody. It's 9 o'clock.
You're not going to score every chance when you're still learning how to finish your dinner. But imagine Austin on the end of some of those chances. Now, Christ, I mean...
Well, Hannes, can I just add to that?
Yeah, please do.
It's for me, I think the biggest thing he'd bring would be the pure level of experience, because we haven't really had any experienced heads up top for a bit now. So...
Yeah.
Think of the cool experience he'll be able to pass down on to, say for example, Simpson does come back next season.
Mate, imagine him coaching Simo how to finish. You'd be terrified.
You are talking, boys, aren't you? You are talking captain's armband material in many ways.
100%.
But I think,
beyond Debbie Reed.
I mean, I would love to see Charlie leading our side with an armband on, but at the same time, there's something that I kind of don't know whether I would want to burden him with that responsibility either. If he wants to play with a smile on his face, score loads of goals, I mean, I look at it like that. It's so, those two elements there, right? The third element, he doesn't live a million miles away. He's got a lot of friends in the area, and crucially, he's, I mean, I don't know. Look at. I mean, if you're talking about a guy at that end of. Charlie's going to have a few bob in his pocket. There could potentially be a path thereafter, either into management or potentially going down the route of, getting behind the scenes at the club. And I mean, I'll cast my mind back to when Steve McMahon was manager of Swindon, and Steve McMahon had a lot of shares in the club. There could be a much, much bigger role in a very, very interesting development plan that our football club's got now. That someone like Charlie that might want to be looking at an investment opportunity, getting in, at a low level as the club's going to grow, it's an attractive proposition for him, isn't it, at this stage?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, look, if you get him back, I don't think you would give him the armband. Like you say, you don't want to burden him. I mean, if you let that man flourish it and sort of play without the added responsibility, I mean, he's going to lead on the pitch naturally without the armband, so does he need it? Probably not.
But also, it would probably only be a cameo season, wouldn't it? It would only be probably one season, maybe two at a push at League One level. I'd rather have a mainstay character who's part of the decor, who's the captain.
Yeah, I think. Hey, listen, Jay. I think the other thing that with Charlie as well, and we didn't really talk about it. I mentioned the two words, unfinished business, but there is clear unfinished business, and we tiptoed a little bit just now, Tyler, you and I, about his departure from the club, but it was an acrimonious split at the end, and I was probably generous when I talked about certain sections of the fan base. There was a large portion of the fan base that were a little bit upset about at the time. So I think there's unfinished business in terms of, just confirming. I mean, like I say, time's been kind, but I think just coming back and just giving a little bit of something, I think would permanently cauterise those wounds. And I think the other thing as well is the unfinished business of Wembley. And I know Charlie makes light of it, but it does still make uncomfortable talking for him. It was a very, very emotional time for him, and I think getting the opportunity to come back and actually be part of a Swindon Town team that climbed the division or two would be something that appeals. For me, Charlie, the water's fine. Come on in, and I'm sure, and I'm sure you would all echo that.
Definitely.
But listen, let's. I'm sure we're going to get Charlie back on at some stage, gentlemen. So we'll park the Charlie Austin bus for now, because we've got quite a nice little bit of any other business for those hardy souls that want to hang around. And Tyler, we talked before about a certain gentleman going off to play a certain game against the Nigerians, and I said I just pray we get. I just wanted, at that stage, I didn't want to talk about it. I just wanted to make sure we get him back uninjured.
Hey, I told you it had happened.
Jojo has not only he's not only gone and got himself into the World Cup, but he's also flipped what seems to be large-scale fan opinion on his head and become somewhat of a cult hero, hasn't he?
More so than that. I mean, I've just seen a message pop up on WhatsApp. You're a cheeky git, Jay. But yeah, I mean, what he's done is brilliant, isn't it? The way that they've sort of taken him in now after those two games, it's just lovely to see after all of the sort of shit he got post AFCON to now being held up in Ghana as like a hero. Like Jojo is a key role in why we're going to the World Cup for him. So you've got to be happy for him. And that video of him meeting, I'm not sure if it's the mayor or if it's the president.
Oh, it's the president.
Meeting them, that's lovely to see. And now seeing the groups come out today, he's going to be going up against Ronaldo, Suarez, and Heung-min Son. Yeah, that's a mental story. 2 years ago, he's playing under John Sheridan, being called all sorts, to now playing up against Ronaldo at a World Cup.
Yeah, I mean, it's a. I mean, listen, it's been a night of fairy tale stories, isn't it? Talking about Charlie and coming from the parks to the pros and whatnot. I mean, yeah. What a journey. I mean, credit to the Ghana gaffer for having the minerals to bring Jojo into that squad in the first place. I mean, I think I hope I'm not a mind reader, Tyler, but I'm pretty sure that you weren't of a mindset he was going straight in to be the Ghana's number one when he got pulled into the squad. When he got selected, I remember being like bloody surprised. I thought, well, fair play. They're probably going to be getting a cap on him, so they've got him locked down moving forward. But then one cap became 2 caps, became 3 caps, and I mean, I've been very outspoken about some of the criticism Leroy Rossignol in a particular commentary game was giving him at the AFCON, because it was misinformed and brutal. Now, that's pretty bullshit of me to say. Listen, I didn't play at any great standard compared to Leroy Rossignol. But some of the criticism was brutal and seemed wholly unfair. And the worst bit about it was the criticism seemed to be getting picked up by their supporters. And there was a large portion of their fans that were saying pretty unpleasant things, tagging him in the socials and whatnot, being really quite hard to him. What was so Tyler? You watched the game. What were your Jojo highlights?
From which one, or both legs?
The second leg.
I mean, let's get the bad out of the way where we can. He's very fortunate for that offside goal getting disallowed, because my lord, it was a howler.
Yeah.
But it was offside, so it doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
And the rest of it, he's done well. I mean, there's one save, I'm not sure if you've seen the video doing the rounds on Twitter, from a header that's been whipped in. It's remarkable. Like, it is. If you saw Manuel Neuer doing that, you wouldn't doubt it. So yeah, it was just brilliant from him. His distribution across the 2 games. I'm seeing him getting some slack for it, but he went long when he had to go long, and when he picked out passes he were picking out were of good quality. I mean,
in the first leg, there was one where he's actually pinged it out on the turn to the right wing, and it was like, it was almost Paul Scholes-esque. As much as I don't rate him as a footballer, he could hit a tree from a long distance. So
yeah,
that's what Jojo was doing.
Well, I've really enjoyed going toe to toe with a few. I mean, I think I've added about 50 or 60, if not more, Ghana followers within the space of a week, and I've had a lot of joy. Yeah, I've had a lot of joy jousting with them this week about the quality of his distribution, and I was able to clip the assist for Joe Davison's goal against Sutton, and I said, listen, his distribution's been like this for us all season. Like, if you're talking about the backdrop for Jojo is, you're expecting miracles, but at the same time, you're absolutely savaging him for any little mistake or any minor misjudgment. Actually at our place, obviously he's loved, he's confident, he's the top man. Give him that kind of, support, give him that sort of foundation to sort of build his game on, and you'll probably get Swindon Town's Jojo Woolacott. And I'll tell you what, I'm chuffed because the reception that he's getting now and the cult status that he's earned now, on one hand, I'm absolutely buzzing because that must do wonders for his confidence. And I'm sure we are going to get prime Jojo Woolacott back between the nets, if not this week, certainly next week. The concern, of course, Tyler, is that he's obviously going to impress a lot of scouts. And it's no secret, his contract's up at the end of the season. We know that, obviously, we're not going to be able to compete anywhere near clubs in the Championship and the upper ends of League One, or as we found with Wes in potentially the Scottish Prem or any other country around the world's top flight. Are we going to keep him, Tyler? Is he going to be here at the start of next year?
Optimism says yes. Honesty says if we go up, yes. If we don't go up, no. Purely because it won't just be clubs in England looking. Now he's got the international caps off to the World Cup. It's going to be easy for him to get a work permit, so you have got to be a little bit more concerned. But if he does go, you've just got to thank him. He came back when he didn't have to. He could have done a Pierce Sweeney and just walked out the door. He stuck around. He went unpaid. He did what he had to do. He's had a great season. He's gone and got himself like into a World Cup, into the national team. So could you fault him? Absolutely not.
No, I'm not going to. I won't fault the lad if he chooses to move on. However, here's my big dollop of optimism and what it's based on. Similarly to Charlie Austin, all right, we are quite clearly a club on the up. We've got an owner that absolutely cares. We've got a brilliant chief executive, and the coaching setup, whilst it's drawn criticism at certain points of the season, against the backdrop of the start of the season, I think we're witnessing a minor miracle at Swindon Town this season, is my honest point of view. And even though I was raging like most fans in the build-up to the Scunthorpe game, the changes that Garner's instilled, the tactical changes he's made, the players he's brought in, the whole piece. And I've also heard a lot of voices from behind the scenes, just giving me a window on what it's like in terms of the culture of the club. And I've got to tell you, I'm buzzing about that. Now, Jojo is not old in goalkeeper terms, right? He's still got a long, long career ahead of him. And I would say this, if we don't go up this season, I can see with the right recruitment next season be an absolute barnstormer of a season in League Two. Garner have shown that they're willing to select him, whether he's playing in League Two or not, and clearly with his newfound cult status, that's not going to change anytime soon. So I look at it like this. I think we're going to maintain. I think we will retain more than we lose this year in terms of our star names. I hope, and I believe that we're going to keep the likes of Reedy. I think we'll keep Willow. I think we'll probably have a fight on our hands to keep Payne, but I can see him staying for the same reasons. I think we'll secure a couple of the loan guys that we've got. I think we'll bring them in permanently. So my tail's up. So my challenge to Jojo is this: why risk going somewhere else and finding yourself on the sidelines for any other reason other than your pocket, particularly when you don't want to risk losing your place with the Ghana national team? Yeah, because he ends up sitting on the bench, and let's say, for argument's sake, let's just pick a club, any club. Let's say you go, let's say he goes up, up the leagues. He goes to a Preston or he goes to even ends up at a Norwich or someone like that. Ends up sitting on the bench. I mean, literally, kiss goodbye to your starting place in the Ghana lineup before long. It's just a part of the course. So why it's not broken, Jojo? So let's not fix it. That's kind of where my logic sits. But at the same time, football's a fickle career, isn't it? That injury, illness, a whole manner of things can play on people's minds when someone comes along and starts writing 5-figure checks for your weekly salary. So it's a big dilemma, but at the same time, he's working under a brilliant coach in Steve Mildenhall, who's really brought his game on. We are, I'm not just saying this because I'm a Swindon fan, Tyler. We are a big club, and we're on the up. That ground's going to be transformed over the coming couple of years. You're going to see bigger brands coming into the club commercially that want to advertise and be part of the mix as the fan base continues to grow, as our profile continues to grow. You will see us on TV more as we move up the league. So, listen, we're on the up. I hope he just wants to be part of it, because he could be like a Colin Calderwood figure for us if he wants to. Someone that comes in, sticks with it, goes all the way through the league, and further down the line, go on and get your riches further up the leagues if you so wish. He's got the class. Let's hope he's listening. He's not, but maybe he'll listen to the recording. But anyway, we'll park Jojo for a second, because there's also a very interesting potential Swindon Town interest in our group, isn't there, after the World Cup draw? And Johnny got himself another cap, and it just so happens that we've got Iran, the USA, and Wales, Scotland, or Ukraine. It could be Johnny versus England, couldn't it?
It could, but I hope it isn't. I really hope it's Ukraine, purely because last time we played them, it ended 4-0. So that would give me a lot of confidence. And I mean, to be fair, whoever we get in that group, surely Kane breaks that record now.
Yeah, you would hope so, wouldn't you? I mean, like anything, listen, Iran have got their, on their own merits, right off the USA at your peril. The USA are no mugs, but it's certainly, if you look at it on paper, it's no group of death, is it? With any of those three. I mean, the licks. I'd love to play the Scots at the World Cup, in a World Cup final. That'd be absolutely magnificent spectacle. But then equally, it would be for the Welsh as well. But it's just that old enemy piece, isn't it, with the Scots? But I mean, obviously a little bit of work for Johnny and the Welsh boys to do to seal the deal. It's certainly no, they're going to have their work cut out against either the Scots or the Ukrainians. I think. I personally, I mean, I think the Welsh will probably fancy themselves as favourites. What are you thinking?
You've got to fancy the Welsh as favourites when they've got someone like Gareth Bale who can go without playing for 4 months and then do what he did against Austria and just pick out some absolute worldies.
Yeah. I completely agree. Well, either way, we'll keep an eye out for Johnny, and it was just great to see him. Obviously, not only enjoying some success, getting another cap, because proving he's not just the Archbishop of Banterbury in the Welsh squad. He's also he's also gaining caps under his own merit. So, Johnny back and fit, Jojo back and fit. Happy days. Going into Saturday's game, we'll come on to Rochdale, mate. But a couple of interesting developments this week. The squad were cooking people's dinner at Wagamama's. Were you there, Tyler? Because I reckon I saw a picture of Darren Dunn there. I reckon Darren might have been there. Do you know anyone that was in the restaurant? And if so, who cooked their dinner for them?
And I had my tooth pulled out that day, so I can eat that food if I wanted to.
No, you weren't eating a thing. No, lovely thing for the squad to do. For those that don't know, Wagamama's in Swindon. A good portion of the squad lads went down there, and I think some of the club at the time posted some sort of rather cryptical photos of Joe Tomlinson giving us the thumbs up, along with some cryptic lines on their copy, which seemed to suggest that all was good. And a welcome return to the squad environment for Louis Barry as well, with lots of thumbs up and smiley faces. And obviously the presser today suggests that they're both back in the squad, fit and raring to go. That is a huge boost, isn't it, given the loss of McCurdy?
I mean, yeah, if there's the closest like-for-like replacement for Harry McCurdy in this team, it's got to be Louis Barry. So hopefully hopefully both of them can come back in, hit the ground running, and do it tomorrow.
So Rochdale away then. Let's go for it. What are we? Where's your what's your lineup? Who are you going for?
Well, controversial one. I'm putting Jojo Wallacott in goal. I know that was a bold call. And then back four, I'll go Rob Hunt, Akin Odamayo, Jake O'Brien, and Joe Tomlinson. Midfield three, I'll go Ryan East, Ellis Iandolo, and Ricky Aguiar.
Ooh.
With Jack Payne, Josh Davison, and Louis Barry.
Interesting. No Willow.
No.
Interesting.
After that horror show of a dive at Crawley, I think I can let him sit on the bench for 60 minutes and then come on. And I mean, Johnny Williams against tired legs is quite funny to watch anyway, because no one can track him.
Yeah, it's very, very true. I mean, I'm inclined to agree. My only concern is Aguiar and East.
It's a bit lightweight, and I can agree with that.
It is a little bit lightweight, and I would be very tempted to just make sure that Williams is in there, just bringing that little bit more experience. And well, we're talking about going over a bit easy, but hopefully a steadier head.
Wow.
So
I know Garner's not mentioned here, but could we maybe see Mandela Ragbo sliding in central midfield there? He's done it for New York Red Bulls before, so I mean, physically he looks like an absolute beast. So why not give him a shot?
Yeah, literally. Hey, listen. As far as I'm concerned, Mandela Ragbo can pick his position. I think that I saw enough from him on his debut to think the kid's mint, and I'm very surprised that in the games following on, he's not been given as many minutes as I thought he would at this stage. It's a little bit puzzling. He could throw a curveball, couldn't he? Give him a run. Personally, listen. I'm a fan of Eastie. I think he's great. But at the moment I'm more comfortable with Eastie coming on in the latter stages and just sort of earning his spurs. Didn't cover himself in glory against Crawley. Appreciate
it's a bit harsh.
Yeah, it is. Listen, it is a bit harsh, but I mean, I guess we come at it from a slightly different sort of view, really. I mean, as an ex-goalkeeper, I expect my defenders, defensive midfielders to be sticking to their men like glue, tracking their runners until the nth degree. And I just thought that they passed through us a bit too easy, to be fair. He's got big shoes to fill as well, and I don't know. I just don't think he's the answer at the moment. That's not to say I don't think he's a good player. I just think at the moment, the pressure of a promotion push, I think I just want a little bit more experience in there. And yeah, like you say, Mandela's a big beast. If he was going to throw a curveball, I'd probably take a look at Mandela Egbo playing that central defensive midfield role, or potentially even playing a bit further up. And listen, Willow is a very, very flexible individual. I mean, he's got lots of experience. If you told Willow to sit back there and just sort of keep things simple, I'm sure he could play that role as well. It's a little bit square pegs in round holes, isn't it? But okay, well, listen, I'm with you, as I say, with the exception of, and again, a huge Ricky Aguiar fan, but if he does go east, then I just think Williams has got to get the nod for a bit of experience. Other than that, mate, I'm with you on that lineup. I'm not going to ask you for a prediction, mate, other than are we going to win the game? Because I know what your prediction will be, but are we going to win the game?
I hope so. I'm making the trip for this one as well, so
yeah.
4-0 as normal.
I think we'll win. I'm
going to say, Mark, if you've not noticed, Steve did request to come back on, so I did accept it. But
well, he's more than welcome.
Yo.
Hello, Steve.
How are we, lads?
Yeah, very good, mate.
Me and Jonah were just here, and we were like, "Why are we not talking? Let's have a chat."
Well, listen, boys, you've got an open invite on this show. You know that.
Yeah, we've just gone round to the SO garage.
Cool.
I've got
What do we get?
strawberry yazoo, and I've got some Mr. Kipling's, because you can't go wrong.
Angel
Cannot
slices.
go
Oh,
wrong.
very nice. Steve, you could probably answer this. Have
Go on.
either you or Jonah done the Matty Hayward Pringles trick on anyone on this away trip?
No. Well, not yet.
For anyone that didn't listen to the Matt Hayward show, it's been recorded. Please go back and have a listen. That'll all make sense. How are the boys, Steve? Are they all in good spirits?
Yeah, everyone's good, I think. Yeah. We're all good. Training was good this morning. Good tempo. It was all decent.
Magic?
Yeah. Travelled up. Nice. Straight through, didn't we? It's quite easy.
Beds are comfy.
Beds are comfy.
Beds are comfy. Very
TV's
nice.
big enough. We're all right.
Locals are being kind. You haven't got any parties going on outside the hotel?
No, nothing. It's a village hotel, isn't it? So it's quite lively anyway. There's a few people downstairs.
Of course, it's a village. Anything to do with Rochdale's village. Coming from big Swindon town, it's always going to be village up there. So let me think, Steve. Things that I might be able to ask you that won't compromise you. Are you allowed to? We're in the yellow tomorrow, I'm guessing.
Yeah, yellow, green, yellow.
Lovely.
Pink keepers.
Yeah, pink keepers, yellow and green. All right.
Joe likes the pink keepers at the moment. He wore that against Nigeria.
I don't know if he's got a choice.
I think he promised you would be wearing it.
Oh, for God's sake. He's making awful jokes.
Has he been getting pelters, mate? Have the boys brought him back down to earth?
Always. No, he's all right. When did he come back? Yesterday?
Yes.
Yeah, yesterday. Yeah, he came in. No, the boys were all just like congratulating him, and do you know what I mean? It's an unbelievable feat for him.
Yeah, it's bloody mega, mate. I mean, there's been a lot of banter this week, Steve, about on Twitter. You've probably seen it yourself. The last player to play in the World Cup finals for Swindon Town, and Mas Luongo obviously had 2 bites of it, but didn't get any game time. And really, you're going back to '94. And you're talking about Fjortoff, and then before that you're going back to 1990. I'll give you an idea. In 1990, I was what would I have been? A year 9, year 10?
I was 5.
No, hang on. I would have been a year 8 in primary school. So I mean, it's weird because I've got very, very, very clear memories of it. But I mean, that's different gravy, isn't it? Well, has Jojo ever talked to you, Steve, about the kind of manager's attitude to him playing in obviously the bottom tier in the English game? Has he ever given any insights into that?
No, we've not really had a chat about it, to be honest. I mean, I might do in the future, but no, at the moment, no. It's like I don't think they look at it too much. Like he's probably the best keeper they've got. Like,
so he performs for the country. Like.
Yeah, you know what I mean. As long as he's performing and playing every week here, I don't think.
Well, I think
too much of an issue.
I think this is the thing, Tyler. I mean, I'm sure you've seen it, Tyler. The other 2 keepers in the squad, you've got one in the Swiss top flight, and you've got one playing for Kaiser Chiefs, I think it is, over in South Africa. Now, I would take those 2 divisions, and I would say they can't be standard-wise far off of, our very competitive League 2, especially when you look at the calibre of clubs in our league. It's a competitive division, so I think it's a little bit harsh that the Ghana fans were getting on Jojo's back prior to this game. But I mean, you probably heard us, Steve. We're just both absolutely buzzing. Like the boys established cult state. I mean, the clip of him with the the Ghanaian president when he announces himself, that brings a proper lump to the throat, doesn't it?
Did he say one of them plays for Kaiser Chiefs?
Yeah. Yeah, go on, say it, Jonah.
Go on, Jonah. You know what's coming.
No.
I was going to say, I predict a riot. What do you predict?
I predict a 3-0 win to Swindon Town tomorrow. That's what I predict. Matty Hayward, of course, is predicting goodwill to all men, or whatever it was he said.
Oh, yeah, what was that? World peace or something, wasn't it?
World peace, yeah. Good on him. Good on him.
Fair play, then.
So he's a bigger picture man. He's a bigger picture man, is all it is. It's all What's the vibe of the club, Steve, in relation to the support this week for the Walsall game? By the way,
it's unbelievable, isn't it?
We're going to have nearly 4,000 fans there.
It's mad. But obviously those tickets have gone on sale this morning, and they've sold like 700, 800 of them. I can't believe it when I saw that.
Absolutely.
I mean, I can't believe it because we've been there. We've bought tickets and done crazy things and gone all over the country. But
what 800 there?
Yeah, it's going to be good. Like, tomorrow will be decent. Walsall's looking good.
Yeah.
I think every game between now and the end of the season's it's massive, isn't it? So I think people will be turning up to all of them. I think you'll even get a few hundred at Hartlepool and Harrogate, I'd imagine.
Harrogate's sold out, isn't it? And
is it?
Yeah.
I can confirm there will be at least one of us up to Hartlepool.
Mm.
Yeah.
Well, listen. I mean, I think the thing is, Steve. Like, I don't know. You get a polarized view really on fan opinion based on. I mean, if you like me, you spend a lot of your time on Twitter. It's you see the kind of inevitable meltdown after every single defeat. But I mean, you have to kind of remind yourself that Twitter is not necessarily representative of our entire fan base. And yeah, you can talk about a sample size and you can talk about it being a good chunk of the fans and all the rest of it. However, regardless of what's been going on this season, I mean, some of the gates have been truly outstanding. I mean, we had Charlie Austin on earlier tonight, and Charlie's talking about some of those huge games. Like, he talked about the Leeds game, and he said, "What did we have that night? You know, about 12,000." I mean, mate, those are the gates that we've been getting this year. We've had that on more than one occasion this year at the county ground in League Two.
In League Two on a Tuesday night.
What is it, Steve? What do you think? I mean, I'll take this view from you, Steve, you, Jonah, you, Tyler. What do you think is behind it? Because I'll give you my view. I think it's because we were so close to the brink that people realised what they had almost lost, and you don't realise what you lost until it's gone.
And I also think there was a lot of people that stayed away, and so with those people coming back and us doing relatively well this season, I think it's all just kind of come together. And yeah, like you've just said, Mark, I think it's just the whole lot coming together.
I think it's a mixture of everything. You think people couldn't go to games for a year and a half.
The COVID effect as well.
So you're sitting around for so long and you've got so much time to think. I think it's just a mix. I think it's crazy. There's an extra at least 2,000-3,000 every game. It's crazy.
Well, what were we doing when Di Canio was ripping it up? I mean, we were getting nowhere near these crowds. I remember talking back then. That was prime 442 days for me, and I remember talking to the likes of Jeremy Ray and Andrew Fitton and saying to them, like, where we got better. And back then it was, well, we've got to be doing, really, we've got to be getting 8,000 puts us in profit, 7,000 has us cutting even. And that was, and we were tearing the league up, and we were sort of struggling to get 8,000 in the ground.
Even when we were top end League One under Danny Wilson, we were only getting 7, 8, 8.5 max. And even if you look at it recent years, even when we were under Richie, top of the league, we were only getting 7.5, 8.
Yeah. What's your take, Tyler? Are you of similar thought, or is there some magic potion that we've forgotten yet?
I think it's a mix of everything. I think Clem getting out in the community really helped out with initial season ticket sales and just getting people connected as well. He seems a likeable bloke. And yeah, I've got to agree with Jonah. Like, it is a mix of everything. And I mean, not having football for 18 months, it definitely it made people want to go more. I mean, this year I will have done 47 of our games, like official games, and I wouldn't have dreamed of doing that, even under Richie when we were pissing the league then. So
I'll tell you what. I mean, I'll just put an extra layer on what I was saying earlier, lads, and it's this, right? The thing was, what the summer did, and I'm not going to kind of pull on the heartstrings too much here, but what the summer did was, I think it just gave people a window on what life, it made you contemplate what life would look like without our football club. And whilst that was going on, as things got to the state that they did, I'll give you my perspective on it. Steve, you and I haven't even spoken before the start of the season. You've probably never even heard my name before. But the interesting thing was, I started learning, but whilst the club was going through great hardship, I started hearing about the names of people behind the club. And I know we're not going to go over the old ground, mate. And I know that you were just, you'll tell me I was just doing my job, and Jonah will say, we just didn't want to sit at home. And I get that. So we won't revisit that. But, people like yourselves, Steve Mildenhall, Peaks, I've heard names from behind the scenes at the club. Danny and the team. There was a lovely lady whose name escapes me, and I'm kicking myself because I'm going to name check it this week. There's a lovely lady that's it's Amy, of course, Amy Wilkins, who I spoke to behind the scenes, and there's so many people that were just sort of you realise that, hang on a minute, our club's kind of been purged now. The people that are at the club really want to be at the club, the beating heart of our club. And with Clem coming in, Rob coming over from Nationwide, everyone knows he's a dyed-in-the-wool Swindon Town fan. Heavy involvement from the trust. Whether you like what's happening with the advisory board, it has its critics. Personally, I think it's great that they're all getting involved. The supporters club, I think there's so many more media touch points as well. You've got, obviously we're doing our little bit here, but Rich's Low Strangers has gone from strength to strength to strength. You've got the guys with Fools Rush In on YouTube. You've got you've got On the Sofa with Vic Morgan. So there's so many more touch points to keep people interested during the week. Mm-hmm. So there's this wonderful swirl of content that happened off the back of Hardship. A lot of that video
I think you forgot one of the best ones, mate.
And who's that, Ty?
Oh, you're forgetting the life of a kit man on TikTok. There's your plug for you, boys.
Those boys are chancers.
Oh, mate, honestly. Speaking of it, actually, I showed one of my Tottenham mates that Port Vale one where Jonah was being an absolute idiot with his hands. But honestly, we were just crying laughing. It's so funny.
But do you get my point, though, boys? I think this is the thing. COVID forced a lot of new technology to the fore, and that gave us opportunities as fans to create content. We very nearly lost the club, or that was the feeling anyway. And then we realised that actually the beating heart of the club is still there. It's very, very pure, and it's just been added to with proper investment, proper plans. It's an exciting time. I mean, it's there's just I think there's just so much more buzz, and I think if you're spending your week and you're umming and ahhing about going to a game on a Saturday, but all content keeps popping up and there's positivity around the club, that swirl is intoxicating, and it's got to play a role. But well, there we are. So what's I mean, listen, the only other things that I've got to mention is Tyler, Steve and Jonah, please feel free to give us a view on these two boys, but lovely to see Harrison Minter and feed the cow and he will score. George Calmeadow, our latest professional at Swindon Town. What's Steve, what can you tell me about the two boys? Obviously, we've seen a bit of them both around the first team, but obviously you're going to tell me cracking lads. But is there anything you can tell me about them?
I mean, they've been training with the first team for quite a while, to be honest. I mean, George has been with us months, training like every day. So, and obviously Minno's come in a little bit later than him, and he's had his time out on loan, and he's done all that kind of stuff. And I mean, the boys have done really well, haven't they? Like, anyone that comes through an academy, gets to under 18s, trains with the first team, and then ends up with a pro contract, has done exceptionally well. It's just like now the hard work starts for him.
Yes, indeed. But I mean, again, I've only seen the stills, Steve, but I'm sure he's around the first team before. I mean, he must be absolutely buzzing.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, and good luck to him. We wish him all the best. Only other bit of news I've got: a big managerial appointment in Wiltshire. Steve and Jonah, you may not be aware, but a certain Tyler Bunce has been appointed as head coach of Old Town.
I saw this yesterday or earlier, Twitter, I think.
So Tyler, that must make you like the equivalent of I'm trying to think now. That must make you like a Tommy Tuchel sort of figure, surely. Very young man to be getting involved in the world of management.
I'd rather be considered a Julian Nagelsmann than a Tommy Tuchel.
Of course, you're a Julian Nagelsmann type. Yeah, we'll give you that.
Got to give me the high press.
So tell us all about that, Ty. How's that come about?
Well, we were just at the Bassett game yesterday, and they were talking about how they just came up to me and were like, do you want to give it a go? And I was just like, I've got nothing else to do on a Sunday, so why not? And so it'll be a laugh. It's Sunday league, isn't it? It's with your mates. It's there to have a laugh with. So all I need to do is get Benny Garner to give us a pre-season game, and away we go.
I'm sure he'll make it happen. Joe, I don't know about you, mate, but it sounds like he's just talking it down, isn't he? He's talking it down. Oh, it's Sunday League. It's with me, mates. I bet you Tyler's bought himself one of those little magnetic clipboards.
Oh,
I bet he's got.
100%. He's definitely got a tracksuit.
The real
Oh,
question,
mate,
yeah.
I've
Is
got
it a suit or a
Bengana
tracksuit?
Gaffer coat on the way.
Yeah, is it? What is it? Is it smart cash? Is it a tracksuit or is it a full suit? That's the question.
Got to be full suit with a navy blue tie.
No, you're going a Kanye West velour tracksuit, Tyler. You don't know what you're doing. Tucked into your socks.
What with my Drew slippers on like Harry McCurdy?
Yeah,
and will
yeah.
you be getting involved in the coaching, or will you be sitting back on a match there?
We'll do what's needed. I want to take a more relaxed approach, Jonah.
Are you going to take the warm ups or?
Oh no,
Right.
that's what you've got assistants for, Steve.
Oh, okay. Oh, I see. Okay. So he's a manager. He's not a coach. He's a manager. Yeah, I got you.
Yeah. He's got.
No, fair play to you, Tyler.
He's got coaches for all that nonsense. Right. Well, listen, gentlemen, I'm getting messages here. So Jeff in the States is trying to encourage us to do an all-nighter, but I'm getting messages here to keep on going. But I've got to call it a night. I've got a big day tomorrow, so give the boys all our best wishes and best luck. Give Jojo a massive pat on the back from us, and So what we got? We've got quite a big week coming up, Tyler, haven't we? Next week, because we've got our first ever live from the County Ground show, which is going to be on the 7th, where Tyler and I will be hosting Phil King on behalf of the big partners of the football club, Verilogic. I tweeted earlier this week, so I have a little look down my feed. Tickets are available at £20. All proceeds are going to the NSPCC, are going to be present with us on the night. We are going to be broadcasting the show live from the County Ground. All we would ask you is this, ladies and gents, if you're going to listen in, because for whatever reason you can't get to the County Ground, please do. We will be putting a link up. If you miss it, please do go over to the NSPCC and donate what you can. It's a wonderful charity. We are going to start streaming from on Twitter Spaces. It'll be audio only, but we're going to be streaming the show from about 7:30 p.m., which is when we'll start the chat. We've got a lovely show lined up, lots of lovely surprises for Phil as well. It's going to be a little bit like a This Is Your Life type thing, some brilliant guests and snippets and bits and bobs. The following week, we are welcoming Mickey Hazard into the Sir Tom Broadbent Lounge. Mickey's absolutely buzzing about coming on. He's going to be talking to us about life with Glenn Hoddle. He's going to be talking to us about his 2 spells at Spurs, his various transfers around the Football League, and of course, reaching the pinnacle with Swindon Town. He'll be giving us the inside track on a few things, and hopefully a little bit more of this, getting the questions from you guys, which is always meant to have been the spirit of this show. So please, if you think of any questions you'd like to come on and ask a living legend, Mickey Hazard, please do. The list of guests thereafter I've been sharing with Tyler is pretty spectacular. And I'm going to keep you powder dry. A couple of them are still to sign on the dotted line, but they told me they're going to do it, which is very exciting. So keep them peeled. One of them I could tell you now, but I'm not going to tell you. It could get sticky. That's the only thing I'm going to tease in there. But anyway, Tyler, anything else to add? If that's us done for the night, mate, I'll wish you a fair do well. You've got a long trip in the morning, haven't you?
I do. I'll be seeing Steve and Jonah in Greater Manchester or so. And the only other thing I wanted to add is, Cabs, Nigeria got knocked out.